Immediately. All right, you guys ready to go? All right, Tuesday evening, February 14th. Thank you so very much for ignoring your significant others to spend time here to talk about Bolton finances.
You're insignificant.
Yeah, exactly.
Obviously.
All right, first up, we have Teresa Sauer. Come on down, and this is going to be a line item 179. And that would be, Agricultural Commission. How are you doing this evening?
I'm great. I should be home, but you know, it is Valentine's Day.
No. Well, thank you for coming. We talked a couple weeks ago
We did.
about wanting to come in and just go through this, so if you would be so kind as to take us through the game plan.
Sure.
That'd be wonderful.
So, do you have one of those? Did you already get it? You guys got it?
Yep.
Awesome. I didn't know if they said it about it or not. No, I didn't change anything. So, yeah, we're pretty much on track this year with what we wanted to accomplish, and we're looking to do much the same next year. Our big line item is the road signs. We've had significant fading issues on them, and they look terrible, a few of them, so we're needing to replace some of them.
So I think I probably asked you this before, but how many in total are there? And is it kind of a replace situation, or are we adding more?
Nope, at this point, we're replacing a few of them.
We replaced a few last year for the same reason.
I thought so.
Right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them right now.
Okay.
So we actually did want to, you guys know Gentry?
Hello.
So on the AgCom.
I'm sorry, who is it?
Gentry, Harold? Yes, and so we're just slowly replacing what's there.
So $1,100 will cover
5 signs.
5.
They're $200 a piece.
All right.
So prior AgCom, when they originally bought these, did them as die cut, or as digital print rather, not die cut vinyl. So they're more expensive than what they bought. However, they were, for whatever reason, they chose to do it the other way. That's why we have the UV problem. Any ones that are in the light are just fading out. And so I talked at length with the sign guy, and it's worth the extra money that they'll be more like road signs, that we're not going to run into this problem again.
So if 5 covers, 1,100 covers 5, then you did 2 of them last year, and then that'll cover all 7.
We didn't end up doing 2 of them last year because it started this whole conversation about why were they like, why is this happening? What is our alternative to this? What is that going to cost?
Okay.
Where is the artwork?
How convenient for a sign guy to create a sign that needs to be replaced.
He said it was to his objection that they did it the way they did. So I think it was more of a cost issue that.
All right.
I mean, we want to make we feel like we want to make this investment, that the signs are important.
That's the only, looking through this, and I think we started talking about this when you and I were on the phone, and I said, you know what, instead of getting into it and explaining it to me and then having to explain it, the only issue that I have that I'd like just some greater clarity on is the farmer social. If you could just briefly explain the game plan around that and what that goes towards, that would be great. And then if you could touch a little bit about the website hosting, namely for the fact that, I'll admit I wasn't here last week, so I don't know if this was talked about, but 2 weeks ago, we had some folks in, and they were all kind of working on their own website, and namely the feedback was the town's website was lousy.
Right.
And so if you could touch upon that, that'd be great.
So the town website is lousy as far as trying to do anything dynamic on it, and to get changes made tends to take a long time. So yes, there's a number of us that have our own websites. This was created many years ago. It's never really been updated or really utilized, and so we've really looked into what's on it and what we want to do and how to make it different, and we spent a lot of time and effort to make that happen. I did contact the woman that's going to help us with designing the new website, and we talked a bit about the hosting and the domain name, and she said we're really in the ballpark about what it costs.
Okay.
She said that it wasn't outrageous.
So as much as the town website is as lousy as it is, does the town website at least have the link to yours?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
all right.
But with the money and the effort that's being spent on our independent website, if that same effort and money was applied to working through on the town's website, could you end up with an acceptable work product?
So no, we'd never be able to do what we want to do, and then we would also not be able to maintain it ourselves. Like, we would be reliant on the town staff to do the updating and changes and things like that, and so not really. Zachary, who works for me, actually works for the company that hosts the website, the town website, town hall.
Tell them to get moving.
And he said it really is a matter of upgrading the package that the town has. That in order,
I presume that costs money.
it's definitely a money issue.
All right.
And so there's,
So this hosting expense is one time?
It's yearly.
Because then
that hosting expense is yearly.
I just wonder if we've got a town website that we've had several people tell us is lousy, and we have various cost centers going out and maintaining their own websites. It seems to me this cries out for somebody to find out how much it would cost to upgrade the town's website, and then perhaps have each agency or commission or whatever have a page there.
If I may, in that regard, I would just say, I work in IT. A couple things to consider is you'd really have to poll and find out how much storage everybody's going to think that they need in terms of, like, we would like to have information on there that people could download, like copies of our brochures and things like that. So how much storage would everybody need? Because that'll be part of what kind of hosting package.
Right, but that
As well as how you would manage permissions. Because one of the things we're talking about in terms of ease of management is how does the system manage permissions and who has the right to change what? If we manage it, that means
Right.
we can change it anytime.
Right, I understand that.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering how cost efficient it is to do that, and who would, if we or if somebody in this town administration could at least find out how much storage is needed, how complicated it is to put all of that together. It strikes me as not just inefficient, but probably confusing to users if some people have their own websites and some people don't. That said, I have to admit I've never checked out the link to your website.
Well, let us update it for.
But you know what's interesting? The number of times that I've been on the Town of Bolton website, I mean, there's a certain look and feel.
Right.
And then I go to countless other town websites, and it's all the same. It looks like the same company.
Yeah.
So, but I've gone to a couple recent ones, just gone back to them, and they've actually, they've changed. So I don't know if something has gone on, but yeah, no, I think at this point, Joe, you're right. I mean, we need to, I'll bubble this up to Don
Right.
and see where he wants to take this. But I think it is at the very least time for a review, because in a way, what's the point of making sure the Town of Bolton's website has your link if the feedback that we've gotten has been it's really difficult to navigate just within the town website. So,
Yeah, but if you Google Bolton Agricultural Commission, you come up.
Yeah.
So,
for Tom, so, yep. Okay, all right. And the farmer social.
So it was a long-standing tradition with the AgCom to have a farmers meeting once a year, usually around March, before the farmers get busy. We sort of changed it last year and made it more like a farm social, that it's for anybody interested in local food. So it's not just the farmers, but it's also consumers. And we had a nice gathering, about 40 people showed up, I think, 30 or 40 people.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And it was good. It worked out really well, and
I was gonna say, it also connected people. We don't get to some, like, Jen's neighbors went and they had goats, and I would not have met them in any other context. And we do chickens, but we want to do goats eventually. So it's one of those things where it really allowed people to connect, so that we can have future knowledge sharing and maybe really have more of a network of support for the farmers in the town, which is really vital, especially when it comes to farmers taking vacations, farmers needing a backup if an animal gets loose while they're out of town, like all of these things, that it can be really helpful to have a network and a kind of a safety net built in.
How many farmers are there in Bolton?
So it depends how you want to look at it. So there's,
How many people, how many households are there that consider themselves farmers? Maybe I should put it that way.
so there's the gauntlet from like the Nishway farm that's,
Right.
supporting themselves to people with backyard chickens.
Yeah, I know.
That may still sell eggs
Sure.
to their neighbors. So it's hard to put a number on it.
I'm just curious, because I know there are far fewer than there were when we moved here 30 years ago.
There's actually more than there were when I moved here 8 years ago. More people with at least a few animals,
Sure.
or chickens, or
Mhm.
so there's a lot more smaller places
Yeah.
than there are big farms, and that's part of it too. Is that agriculture is changing. Massachusetts is like 1 and 2 with California for more direct sales than any other state in the country, which is pretty amazing, really. But that connection, that local connection, is a huge deal in agriculture right now.
And one of the things that I understand is that when people are asked why they chose to buy property in Lexington, a lot of them said they like the agricultural nature of the town.
But
So,
Mrs. Bolton, not Lexington.
did I say Lexington?
You
Yes.
said Lexington. I was trying to think how many farms there could possibly be left.
Sorry, I spent the day in Lexington.
So I don't have a problem with the budget at all. I guess the only thing that I would make as a suggestion maybe for next year is if you could maybe refocus the amount of the farmer social. Just namely from an optics standpoint, there's more money being spent on a social as opposed to a website or a brochure so it looks a little off,
We actually brought it down. Originally, last year we had it at like 360 or something. It's a huge budget, and the cost never came near that. So we've actually brought it way down from what it was.
Maybe you should call it something else, like Farmer Consumer Networking.
There you go. Farmer outreach. There you go. Networking. And this is one of the things that our budget went to last year, was making this brochure, particularly with the issues that would happen in town. And it seems that a lot of AgComs still have fence inspectors, believe it or not. So some towns still have fence inspectors that actually go out and check your fencing. So it's kind of
We did that a
interesting.
few years ago.
Well, that's what, we no longer have that person in town, and
I know.
so there's a consideration for a line item. Not a chance, my friend.
I'm not really in the business of creating more line items. I'm looking to get rid of them. Nice try. I'm glad you showed up tonight for that.
I did.
Is that what you did? All right. So I'll entertain a motion to accept 179 Agriculture Commission for $1,745.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right. Thank you, Teresa.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Chief Menzer. All right, sir.
Very good, thank you.
All right, 220. All right, Chief, you want to take us through the budget?
Okay, starting with the wages sections. On the first one, the wages inspections, I've asked for a small increase just to handle the increased number of inspections that the fire department has been doing over the years. This line item covers for a backup firefighter to do inspections when primary inspector, Lieutenant Farrell, is not available, he's sick, on vacation, or
Smoke alarm, things like that?
Yes.
Okay.
there are many types of different inspections. And they've been increasing by about 30 each year for the last couple of years. And so far, last year we overspent that account. So far this year, it's pretty much all spent already. So, and so that increase actually could be justified.
Okay.
I will kind of defer to HR as far as any changes in the full-time Farrell salary goes, as far as any step changes, that kind of thing.
Okay.
The fire chief's stipend, which is the wages clerical, would stay the same. And then the last one, wages firefighter, I've asked for an increase.
Yes, you
because
have.
of two reasons. One being that last year we had a huge increase in number of calls that we responded to. We had 282 emergency calls last year, whereas compared to the year before, it was just over 200 calls. Though the increase is due primarily to more alarm activations and smoke detector activations, but the biggest increase was in a big increase in the number of motor vehicle accidents that we responded to. I'm hoping that, that frequency of calls pulls back somewhat. We don't have another year with, 280 calls, but I do assume that it is going to increase somewhat over what the average might be. So,
So we're a little more than halfway through. What's the run rate right now on calls?
So far, it's been less than last year. It has kind of pulled back, as I said. We've had a typical January and February so far, so that's good to see. The second area is there is a portion of that increase is due to an anticipation of restructuring or changes to the call firefighter pay schedule that's still in negotiation between the town and the call firefighter union. So I'm not sure exactly what that's going to end up being, but
I was hoping there was a part two on a $32,000 increase than just the call rate going up. Okay.
Is there a process that determines how this increase is arrived at? I mean, is there a board, or is there a go-to committee or something, or algorithm? Or?
for which, I'm sorry, for which?
Well, I'm seeing we're going from 68,000, 70 to 100, maybe I'm missing something.
It's overspent, but
Well,
when you look back at
negotiation with the
2014,
union is mainly.
So I'm assuming what the chief is doing, or correct me if I'm wrong, chief, but I would hope that is factoring some type of increased delta on the call volume
Yes.
multiplied by the anticipated the contract that you're looking for, right? Is that?
Correct. I mean, I'm anticipating, next year we're going to have in the area of 220 calls. And then there'll be certain number, X number of firefighters responding on each call for 2 hours at a certain pay rate. And that's,
Okay, all right.
And how are things going we've got 3 selectmen here, how are they going? Or can we talk about this yet, or is it still
Talk about what?
the negotiations?
No.
No.
They're ongoing.
Such a lovely concept. Great. All right.
Hopefully soon we'll be able to provide.
And this is a, which is interesting to begin with. This is a call firefighter to begin with,
Correct.
which is involved in a union.
Yes.
What a lovely concept that is. All right.
And
Wonderful.
just to be clear, this line item covers the pay that firefighters would get for responding on calls, but also the pay that they receive for attending training also.
Of course.
Okay.
We love training.
Yes. And then, let's see, if I recollect correctly, all the other line items in the expense categories are level funded except for the dues and memberships, where there's been asking for an increase there just to cover an increase in the dues that we pay to the mutual aid association that we belong to, the Mid-State Mutual Aid Association. Where the dues, actually this year there was an increase, but I kind of absorbed that, but next year there's going to be another $300 increase to that, so I felt that, again, I think that's
When do you buy your uniforms? How does that work?
kind of as needed, although typically we do that more in the springtime.
Well, you must, because you haven't spent any money yet on uniforms. Okay, I wondered.
But certainly, I do have kind of that based on our typical purchases, I mean, that fits in, that dollar amount fits in, but basically what we typically need to purchase during the year.
So, yeah, I mean, it looks like, for the most part, everything is, it's funny I'm gonna say this, pretty much level funded except for this wages, which is healthy. Donna, do we have a number on the permanent firefighter? It says 31,915 CHR.
It'd be the same number.
Okay, and that number is just once the,
It'd only be adjusted by a COLA.
okay, all right.
He's at step 10, that's.
All right. Chief, I guess the only thing that I would ask is, I mean, just given where we are, given what you're looking for in terms of wages going up and the permanent firefighter is going to be getting a step, and not everyone in this world
No, you're
gets...
not getting a step.
No step, only COLA, right?
Oh, only COLA. All right. Well, even more to the point, not everyone in this world gets an annual COLA. I'm just going to ask that you figure out a way to find the $500 in inspections and keep it flat. But that's me. Maybe others on the committee disagree, but I just think given where things are, this person can figure it out and get to those inspections for that rate. But tell me where my analysis is incorrect there.
Well, I mean, any of the wages, except the permanent firefighter, they're all basically subject to, you know, what the need is during the year, which was difficult to anticipate. You know, we could end up with fewer inspections, fewer calls.
Yeah.
Yeah, certainly at this point, you know, I could see, you know, not including the increase in the inspections right now, and certainly if we did have in large volume, then what the funds would support, I'm sure
Yeah.
I could come back and talk to you again.
Yeah, if there was absolutely, over the course of this entire budget, if it was drained out, yeah, I like that. So I propose that we keep the wages inspections at 500 as opposed to going to 750. You guys on board with that, or?
I'm just not comfortable with the wages line. I don't know, going up that much.
There's nothing we can do.
Nothing we can do.
You asked me, I
Yeah.
wasn't comfortable.
Well, I was asking you, but on something else, because that was already,
I know.
I-
No, I'm good.
no, I know, I said, you're right. I said my piece to the audience about unions and contracts and all that. I
I
shouldn't
did.
allow you to, so.
No, and I'm.
Does anyone else want to say their piece on something that we have no
$500.
friggin' control over?
Right.
I just see water holes having a budget of 20,000 year-to-date. I think we've spent $500 or something. I realize things aren't linear, but do you anticipate needing 20?
But they spent
We do,
19,928 last year, though.
And the year before, and the year
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
Although this year is a little different, there's a few twists and turns kind of thrown in. During normal testing, kind of late in the fall, early winter, we did determine or discover that at the cistern, what's the development off of Route 85? Kind of.
Danforth.
Danforth, thank you. There's a cistern on Danforth Lane, which we found that the water pump in the well is no longer working, as well as there was an air leak in the draft pipe. So that cistern will need repairs that we're kind of working on now. I anticipate that's going to be probably in the range of $3,000 to $5,000. So based on how much money we have to spend there, we'll determine what we can actually do with the rest of the $20,000.
But it's not unusual that the water hole maintenance would be done in the spring.
Makes sense.
All right. You guys okay with inspections going to 5?
Yeah.
Ken?
I'd be inclined to leave it at what he says, because he spent 742 and 16 having
Right.
budgeted less. And my feeling is that the 100,000 is sort of an unknown and is on the one that's being negotiated. And that's going to dwarf the other one anyway. And so it seems to me that we ought to let that settle out and leave the inspections, be the inspections, based on the fact that they've grown.
Yeah, and
That's
you're
my
already
feeling.
at 425.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Annualized,
I think so. I
today
think
we're at
700 is
900,
fine.
Yeah,
number.
that's,
I know, snowflake off an iceberg, I was just trying to find something.
With you.
Tell me the question.
Yes.
Of the chief, I think you said that what drives a lot of it is the number of auto accidents?
For the increase in the calls in last year, yes. That was the
And how many of
largest.
those were on 495?
That I don't know right now.
how many were at 117 and 110?
Where are you going with that, Tom?
Insurance.
Is there any reimbursement? I mean, it's,
There is not, no.
have we sought out reimbursement for anything we do on 495?
It depends on the type of call. If it's a hazardous material type call, we can charge our labor and materials expenses to the responsible party, which we do all the time. I don't know what the total is, but we brought quite a bit of money back into town for that. But for a normal car accident, that type of thing,
And why is that? Why is the town of Bolton responsible for a US highway?
Because it runs through the town.
because we're lucky to have it in our town, yeah.
Usually the towns within the area cover those calls. You know, I live in Boxborough and they cover.
But we certainly,
Yeah.
we certainly split coverage of the 495 portion that's in Bolton with Berlin and Boxborough. But, they're in the same boat where,
Yeah.
they have to cover those expenses themselves.
Yeah.
Are we doing anything out of the ordinary, I guess is where, I just want to, where Tom is going, I'd just like to put this to confirm. Like, the town of Bolton and your response on 495 is in line and ordinary to what every other town does that has 495 going through it. Is that your understanding?
I would say that's fair to say, yes.
Can you confirm that and report back to the selectmen and to us to confirm that being the case?
To confirm that our response policies are typical of other...
495 goes from, Maine to Rhode Island, right? And it cuts through a lot of towns. So are all of those other towns acting and responding in the exact same capacity that we are? Or are we doing anything different?
I would say, no, we're not doing anything different, but I certainly can research that somewhat and, put that in writing for you.
But even if we were doing the exact same thing, where it's a federal highway, it's maintained with federal dollars, why isn't there some effort to seek reimbursement for our costs to responding to those calls? I mean, the state police, I assume, are reimbursed. The state must have a partnership with the federal government for the state police to cover the patrols of.
I very much doubt that.
This is not a time when we're gonna get much money out of the feds.
Or the state.
And generally speaking, what the feds provide with respect to the interstates is money to repair them and to build them, but not to operate them. Really, the operation is state and local. Now, whether the Mass DOT has any program that would deal with operations, I'm less sure of, but I would suspect that they don't. I'm not aware of any program that anybody has to cover those kinds of costs at a higher level.
No, I've gone to several meetings of towns along 495 or other highways, interstates throughout the state. I spoke with other fire chiefs, and everyone's in the same boat. There is nothing really that.
Do gasoline spills count as hazmat?
Yes.
Oh.
Well,
I mean, to some extent.
for an automobile spill, not really. It's more of a commercial type of.
Oh.
I mean, if you spilled gasoline in your driveway or, on 117 while you're driving to the library, that would not.
No, but I know I have seen the fire department going up 117 toward 110 following soon after police cruisers, and I always assume that it's for some gasoline spill. But maybe that's a wrong assumption.
It could be anything that we were going to at that time.
All right, so, any other questions? Yes?
Yeah, I just had a quick question about
Sure.
what sorts of things are covered under the purchase of services line item?
Actually, there are a wide range of things that are covered there. I do have that, and I can find it for you. It's primarily it's a lot of the testing services that we are required to do, such as the testing of the fire hose, testing of the ladders, testing of the air quality in the compressor we use to fill the breathing apparatus, testing and other pumps on the fire engines, testing of the SCBA subcontinent breathing apparatus masks that we wear. It's those type of testing services that we have to hire on a yearly basis to do these testing and inspections for us.
And do you think you'll get through the 6,600 by the end of this year?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And Chief, that was the increase from 16 of 3696, maybe this is where you're going with this, Brian. Actual 16, 3696, budgeted 17, 6600, same as 18. And I recollect a conversation you and I were having on, there was a certain testing going on, but for liability and just for performance, it was, you were going out to use an outside company, is that?
That was a hose testing.
Hose test. And that represents some of the increase?
Yes.
Any other questions? All right. So, subject to whatever happens with the contract and then the COLA, I'll entertain a motion to approve the fire department as is.
So,
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right. Chief, before you go, I just have a couple of questions for you.
Sure.
In an article that was approved last year at the town meeting for fire engine one repairs for a total of $19,970, as of the most recent budget report, nothing has been done. Where are we on that project?
Well, we've been spending a lot of time getting two major projects done. The purchase of the radios for the firefighters, which was done through a grant from the Shore Valley Regional Dispatch, as well as getting the new fire apparatus in and equipped and ready to go.
Yeah.
Basically, those two things are done or winding down, so the next big thing on the list is the engine repairs, which I was just speaking with Don Lowe this morning, noontime, about that. So that will be ramping up to get that done.
So you can see where I'm going with this, given the timeline of the possession of the fire engine. When you say ramp up, it's this stuff that absolutely drives me. I went after a woman for trees last year because it was, and everyone in town thinks I hate trees. But we convinced the town that this was important, and the town outlaid $19,000. So when you say ramp up, I would like for you to aggressively ramp up and work to get that done ASAP, if that's possible. And that leads me to my next one, which is the SCBA turnout gear, approved in a May 2012. There was still $10,000 in there. Where are we on that? Because a year ago, at the same meeting, when I asked you, you said you're going to be working on it. And so I would like for you to take care of that, or to say, you know what, Brad, the town can have the money back, and we can allocate it to a truckload of expenses that the town is facing for this year.
So, be fair, I will promise you that, yes.
Okay. Look forward to talking to you on that one.
Okay.
All right.
Good.
Have a nice evening.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you. Appreciate the time.
Yeah. It's in an email.
Hello, everyone. Good evening.
Thank you. Yes.
No, thank you.
All right.
Did we do the emergency management?
Yes.
John was still here? Yep.
All right, so 291.
291. That should be a quick one. I think 3,900 level funded, that's for the code red
Yeah.
announcement telephone system. So that's an annual recurring cost. And 1,200 for just unforeseen expenses if something comes up. We just level funded that. Again, we didn't see any need to go up.
There's nothing in it, Tim. Did you submit anything?
Where, what?
There's nothing requested.
Is yours blank or is it just ours?
It's,
Yeah, mine's blank.
it's all blank. Nothing was requested.
Yeah.
No.
I've got it right here. No-
Yeah, no, we
no
never,
service.
yeah,
1,200 is the
it
request?
never came.
Oh, well, I know I sent it.
Yeah.
So-
No, I sure did. No, I just got
So,
printed.
So, no, 291,
3,900 and 1,200.
3,900 and 1,200.
So it's just the same.
Level funded, again, and haven't spent anything on it, on the 1,200, the 3,900 that gets spent. But the 1,200, if something comes up, that's the only time we'll have to use it. So if, I'd like to keep it the same, but obviously if you think otherwise, we can.
And this 1,200, is this the supplies when the town has an emergency, hurricane, and we go out and get bottled water and like
That would.
food first, what everyone at the, is that what we're talking about?
Yes, that's at the station. That's a major incident, and you got 20, 30 people there. Food, water, whatever it takes to keep them going for how many days.
We have this conversation every year. Why do we not want to just roll the dice, and when there's a problem, you're going to get taken care of?
Yep.
Come to advisory. Why do we always turn this down, Don? Why do we keep on letting it roll through year and year? Why wouldn't we just do a transfer?
We certainly could. I mean, there's no reason not to. I think usually it comes right after your tree discussion, and you're still upset about that. But I think, I don't see any reason why we couldn't do
For the
that.
record, everyone, the tree was solved.
They got
That's just me.
planted.
Let's just be clear.
No, I mean, we don't have a disaster every year, at least we haven't up to this point.
Yeah.
And when we do, we need that money. And, you know, with the assurance that, you know, for the next, for the next warrant, you know, that folks will come in and get a transfer to that line item so we can pay our bills.
But I mean, literally so a hurricane takes place, and in the throes of the hurricane, the town is shut down, and these guys, rightly so, deserve to be fed, you know, whatever they need, right? Are we also saying that in order for that to happen, that advisory has to come together to approve a transfer for them?
You can overspend an emergency
Yeah,
situation.
right, that's the other,
So, yeah.
snow and ice and emergencies are the two situations under which we've been overspent.
I think I would rather just zero this out and deal with Mother Nature when it comes, and obviously we're gonna, you know, take care of things when that happens.
If the town hall is destroyed during the disaster, we'll find another location.
Well, you know, that's nice, Don. Because $1,200 is gonna buy a new town hall.
No, but it'll reimburse it for sandwiches and
Yeah.
soda and whatnot.
All right, so delete the 1,200?
Yeah, delete the 1,200, we keep the 39, so 291 is at 3,900.
So you're getting rid of the supply line.
Yeah. So I'll entertain a motion to approve emergency management at 3,900.
So, second.
All right. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right. Benoshka, are you getting this, or am I gonna have to keep track
I
of you
am
later?
on it. I
All
have
right,
it.
because I've got a busy night tonight. I don't have time to be catching up with you later. All right?
You're very
I got
kind.
it.
Have another cookie, you're very kind.
Yeah. You want me to have another?
You have another
I don't think I need another cookie.
Yeah, you know, you're sugar plum.
All right.
We do have a special guest tonight, Paul McKenzie. He's our
Hi, Paul.
IT vendor.
All right.
And we brought him in just so if you had any questions on the public safety building. So,
Because we always do.
I knew you would.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, would you like to go over 200?
Let's start with 200. Yes, sir.
That sounds wonderful.
Now, I would like to think that we might get through this fairly quickly.
Oh, I got my roll
Because-
around, we're ready to go.
Well, I brought my calculator too.
Even better.
But the other thing is, I mean, Brian and I mean, we spent quite a bit of time with you guys. So unless you radically change things from the last time we met, I would think we might get through this fairly quickly.
I'm sure you'll have a few questions. I think on our 17, there was that small discrepancy of the 26,000 that kind of got,
Services, 5,200.
Yes, purchase of services.
so if on FY 2017 you added 26,000, we'd be around 202,000 that we were budgeted for, or we were supposed to be budgeted for. I think that was when we were doing the communications, going up to
Yes.
Devon's, and there was some miscommunications about the 26,000. So if you look at it, we're about 16,000 higher.
Than what
What was
originally approved for 17. So let me just pause with everyone there. So just to clarify what the chief was saying, if you remember, we were going back and forth last year with the assessment number to Devon's, all right? And in the course of all that, we put forth these numbers, Chief and I were talking, and literally, we all found this out. I want to say it was the night that the selectmen were signing the warrant to head off to print, that we realized that we had in the budget $26,000 less than what was the case. So in the budgeted FY 2017, it shows a total of 176 down there. You guys seeing that? But the fact of the matter is, if you were to add 26,000, it'd come out to 202. So what the chief is saying, the actual budget for 2017 at 202 relative to 218, it's not as big of an increase as it appears. So
Where was the 26?
So the chief is just trying to soft pedal it.
Purchase services.
So obviously, we will be back at some point, which maybe we could do now, because Lorraine just pointed out that we're already 1,500 over
Overdrawn in that line
where we
item.
were budgeted without the 26.
And
So,
what does purchase of services by?
oh,
Let's see, antivirus software,
Let me give you your.
internet, is it?
Here's the audit sheet, that's better on the audit. Let's read that.
We got Canon copiers, VeriSign. Do you need to write this down, Ken, or do you want me to go slower? Okay. Comcast, at the time Microdots, which was the IT vendor. Power Resources, looks like for battery upkeep.
That's our maintenance, services is a lot of contracts for service maintenance. That's what that one is.
Yep. Ambu Pro for the ambulance, their billing module. Let's see, I'm just going through, a lot of them are repeats. Now we're with CM Geeks, which is Paul's company. Shannon, VeriSign, Comcast. I'm just looking. There are a lot of repeat pieces.
And you can get back into, if you wanted to. We have antivirus we pay for. We have maintenance contract for the virus, for the APHIS system, the fingerprint scan. We have to pay a contract to the state, CGIS. We have to pay them an annual fee. We have a records management, even though we were over at Devon's, we still have a small module still with the records management that we're still maintaining the old module, even though we're in a new module at Devon's. We're still balancing that transition. We haven't yet cut the reins. So there's a little money needed there this year just to maintain that.
After this year, there won't be, right?
There shouldn't be, as long, we just need to make that determination that all of our, the total database has transferred to Devon's. And we did not lose any data from 1994 to that point. So there's a lot of case files out there that we're still going through, and just to make sure we haven't lost anything. And that includes the fire and EMS too. It's not just the police department. And you know, our domain name, we have radio licensing renewal, and that's pretty much it if you wanted to get the lowdown on that whole budget.
So actually, with the 74, compared to 2017, it looks higher. But if you add the 26 to that, we're at 67, so we've gone up about $7,000, roughly.
You said you were currently over, the current year, is that over the 41,699 or over the 70?
No, the 41, because we're 26. So
Over it?
Through December, $34,887.
yes, because we're 26,000 short.
Yeah.
That we're gonna have to come back at some point.
Yeah.
Talk to you about. So the increases are really not at our hand, it's just all the contracts and all the maintenance agreements that
Yeah, I
go
mean,
along with
I see
equipment.
one here, I mean, a $6,900 increase for IT service provider.
The fee structure increased, so,
That's with the new
with the IT.
New vendor.
maintenance out there.
That's through the contract RFP.
You served this guy up.
Well, you know, it's tire track number one, Paul.
6,900, I mean, I guess you're a good-looking guy, but I didn't see the other person, but what warrants a $6,900 increase?
I believe, again, I don't know much about the old vendor, but from what I hear from, you know, the people in public safety is the simple fact that we got a call at 2 o'clock in the morning, we answer the phone, respond, and solve the problems. So it was much more difficult to get after-hours support with the other vendor. So that's what we've structured. We're very
Do
popular.
we
with
pay
public
for
safety.
after-hours support per se? How many 3 AM calls do you get? Do you know?
From Bolton, since we've signed up, we started in August, probably 4 or 5. I mean, they're not 2 AM, I mean, they vary from, you know.
Right, but they're after 5.
Yeah. So,
Paul's a small operation, so it's him, his wife, and son. And, you know, obviously, at least there's somebody there that if it's a priority one call where they're booking a prisoner, the system has to work. And we have to have something. And I think over the years, I think Microdots was probably giving us a good break on.
They weren't charging at all.
A lot of stuff.
But the
that they
24/7
were
was
doing.
difficult, especially on the weekends and all.
And this all went out RFP, there was analysis, okay. Yeah, I remember that conversation.
Yeah.
I remember that was the game
Did
plan.
that, yeah.
All right.
So, you know,
Process.
Paul is a little bit more expensive,
Yeah.
but we get.
It's been a while since we had gone out anyways.
And I'm going back out again this year, had nothing to do with Paul's performance at all. In fact that
Look at that.
well, no, I've already discussed it with Paul, it's no news to him. But I want to sync up the timing of public safety IT contracts with the town hall
Yeah,
IT contracts, so we're going out at the same time.
gotcha. Tom?
So I asked when Gary was in, why, this isn't folded in under that.
It's actually a very different skill set to be able to maintain public safety building versus break, fix, and project work in a town hall. When I do go out for bid, which is going to be this month, I'm going to be soliciting, there'll be one RFP for the public safety building, there'll be one RFP for the town hall. Vendors will be told that they may feel free to quote on both, but they're not required to apply or submit a proposal for both. So if we find that the same company that's doing the public safety building has submitted a competitive quote, or RFP, it's not a quote, to support the town hall, then we could get some, we could have one company doing both, but it's not a reasonable assumption to believe that the same
They play in
company
the
could do
same
both.
spaces.
That's right, because there are a lot of specialties in public safety
Yeah.
that you don't see when you're doing normal break fix.
Tom, is that where you're going with that?
Yeah, so what I'm hearing is that we're gonna go out, the maturity on the contracts are gonna be the same, they'll be put out for the bid, and people will have an option to bid one or both.
That's right.
And, okay.
So the opportunity is there, but it's not a given.
Yeah.
Right.
All right.
And Gary didn't bid on this last time around, so. And when he did, I think he wasn't set up, he's one-man operation, and it'd be tough to take over.
Anyone who would be a one-man operation, just, I don't care how smart they are, I don't care how efficient they are, they wouldn't have the capacity to be able to cover the public safety.
Well, no, I mean,
So then Gary, what Gary's providing now, that will also go out for the bid?
Yes.
Okay.
So on the purchase of service, if you had the 26, Paul's 6,900, and then plus or minus some of the increases that are in the inventory, we went up to 74,000.
yeah, no, I mean, it all ties out, adds up pretty quick. All right. So the next biggest increase is on maintenance, from 38 up to 56. So share with us a little bit of what's going on there.
We jumped over, do you want to talk heating first, or do you want to just, as we go down?
I have one question on heating, and I'm not, no issue with the budget.
We level funded that at that point. Yeah.
But the amount spent to date seems very low, $2,200.
It
hasn't been very dull.
It's about 29.
No,
You guys have been keeping on your winter coats. I appreciate that.
You pay the bills as they come in.
How much is it?
I was waiting for someone else to join me.
It's got a lot more.
It's still 6,000, that's that.
I have 4,500 we spent so far.
All right.
And that's just on heating oil.
Starting from here.
Through
So that's
today
from
or
October
through?
20th
January
to
31st.
today.
To February,
I ran my numbers to date, so.
so we spent
211 was the last bill that came
4,500 bucks on oil so far.
I'll consult with my accounting friends later.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have 4,200, but that doesn't include the bills.
Yeah, one more, you have another 276 will be the next bill coming in.
Yeah,
As the bills come in, I add them to the.
yeah, exactly, so we're pretty close.
Yeah.
All right, not a problem.
Yeah, they're always gonna come in with the most up-to-date numbers. And we're always, it's all right. They're just keeping up to date.
Another 2 months, yeah. Hopefully we'll be under the 13.5, but it's good to have a little extra there just to be safe.
All right. Level funded, yep.
Electric, level funded again, 42,000. Again, rates up and down. And then on maintenance, as we're going to next, we have $2,500, we need a clean water drain pumping. That's clean the water capture, they capture the water because it just doesn't go into the ground, they have to
Right,
keep
that's
the
all the
water.
water that they have to test, the sprinkler systems, the air conditioning, condensation, everything falls into a tight water tank, as long as it's not contaminated. If Clean Harbors has to come in and take that water away, it's very expensive, so they come and pump
We
that.
go to this every year.
Yeah.
It's like
Same
one of
thing.
those crazy things.
We never know how much it's gonna be every year, but you know?
Then we have 4,700 increase for supplies and equipment, repairs for radios, antenna and tower, portables, routers, switches, UPS backups for the public safety building, police, fire, and ambulance.
Holy smokes.
Well, a lot of equipment that needs to go in.
Yeah.
2,000 for fire and ambulance departments, radio system for fleet, pagers, and requests from the fire department.
They have to have their money.
But we just learned from the chief that he got his radios through a grant, so it should be all set, huh?
That's just portables and mobiles for the fire trucks. This is a little bit different.
If
than what he's
things
looking
break, so would they have to go out to Comtronics and have things repaired or sent out, a bill's gonna come in. So the fire chief has requested that I make sure that there's funding available for the fire and EMS to support those expenditures. They're unknown, so it's very difficult to earmark exactly what the dollar amount is every fiscal year, based upon usage.
That also includes the maintenance of the pagers, which both fire and EMS depend on. Being notified of
That's the fire
calls.
chief.
I just wonder what's under warranty now.
Yeah, I believe warranties are limited, and once, some of them are even like 90 days on new equipment, and then after that, it's like things break, something gets stepped on, who knows, antennas break off of these, so they have to go out for repair.
We have 3,500 increase for security system key accesses, sally port doors, fire bays, cameras, monitors, door access control system. And again, that's just
Galaxy, yeah, that's all the maintenance.
maintenance to keep the doors opening, the security system, all the fun things.
Well, you
to
have to
keep
remember, all the
building
signals are coming in from Devon's to open and close doors, key access, things, so, you know, we have to make sure when the cruisers pull up, the doors open, the same thing with the fire trucks.
Sure, but is that $3,500 for that, or is that a $3,500 increase?
No, it's not an increase, it's the maintenance. I want to give a brief summary
Okay.
as to
Breakdown.
background.
And next one, 8,400, and this is for when Windows goes from 7 to 10, we're gonna have a few workstations that are gonna have to be upgraded.
Well, these are expansions, and that's why Paul is here, if we have any questions pertaining to software support, and you had asked if I wanted to look into the leasing option versus the payment.
Yes,
So
yes.
things to follow with that.
I mean, the big challenge for Windows 7 is in 3 years it'll be end of life. So, you gotta start planning to start replacing now. So
Yeah.
we're going to put together, the ring was just a 3-year plan, just to, try to spend in equal increments over the 3 years. So
So-
that we're not looking at replacing 40 machines or anything.
Yeah, so Paul, you know, the IT individual that was mentioned a few minutes ago, Gary, who
Yeah.
deals with the town hall, we worked with him a couple years ago to, and he, conversion saw the light to move to a lease environment with technology. Be interested to hear your point of view on that and what your game plan is.
I mean, leasing is strictly financial for the town, what works best for the town. By leasing, it becomes part of your operating expense as opposed to a capital expense. That can be great because it can flatten out your budget, and the capital requests basically disappear because they become part of the operational and maintenance stuff. The town gets a big increase in cost somewhere else, and they have to cut costs. Well, now those leases are contracts. You can't cut those costs. It's not a discretionary expense, so there's a disadvantage of that. But it really comes down to what works best for the town from a financial aspect. I don't think it's really an IT thing. You also have to be careful about what leases. So there's a lesser lease where you return the equipment. Putting together those returns can be a lot of work and a lot of time consuming. So it's a hidden expense if you're in that. There's also leases where it's a dollar buyout at the end of them. So then you don't have to return the equipment. So with the other ones, where they're expecting a return, you either buy it at fair market value, which you add the lease, and you add the fair market value, it's more expensive to lease. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I mean, we figured all that out. It was
Those
definitely
are
better
the
for
little
the...
glitches,
right.
So it's a matter of what works best from a funding standpoint for the town, I think.
Right. How many workstations are at the police department?
42 roughly?
So is the 5 replacement, is that a plan you have year after year to replace?
It basically, and the equipment's lasting longer and longer. What's obsoleting equipment right now is software being obsoleted.
Yeah.
And, you know, Windows saying it's end of life, you don't get security patches, this, that, another thing. Especially public safety doesn't want to be running there.
Yeah, because we're doing about a 5-year replacement here now.
Yeah, and that's, you know, that's what I've been saying is, okay, we'll look at these things, we'll put them on 5-year warranties, which is about as most,
As you can get.
as long a
Yeah.
warranty as any vendor will give you. And you know what, if we get 6 years out of them, we get 6 years out of them. We get 7, we get 7, depending on the timing of the operating system and software.
Did you say 42 workstations?
Yes.
And what, like, is each pager considered a workstation, or
Each one?
42,
42 in the public safety building.
like computers?
Desktop computers, yeah, for special purpose computers, you know, for the alarm system, whatever.
So why do we need, I'm sorry, why do we need 42 workstations?
That's what I said.
Yeah, they probably started when they, you know, did the building. So
That's when they did the
Every
building
office,
of the whole
yeah.
dispatch operation.
Well, the dispatch, the officers,
Right.
administration, the radios, anything like that.
Everything in the attic, we have booking, we have the armory, we have evidence. We have computers in the fire bay for the firemen. The fire officers have computers, they have day room computer. There's this big department there, the EMS. So they, you know, they're all being used. Yeah.
So this is across police,
Fire
ambulance,
and-
and
Yeah,
fire?
It's all
Public
public
safety,
safety, not
And
just the officers.
Who gets their own workstation?
That's primarily like the full-time, you know, employees that are there.
So every full-time officer has their own workstation?
Right, where they can work, you know, if they don't need to be in the reports room down on the first floor, not in booking, then they can go up to their actual desk if they're doing investigations or, you know, whatever they need to do.
I'm sorry to cut you off.
Yeah.
Is there any way to consolidate that and just have,
We actually have on a few of them.
On a few,
Yeah.
we haven't, like some of the new people, we haven't, you know, set them up with a computer.
No.
In the reports room, once the computers, there's 2 of them in the reports room, and once one goes, I'm not gonna replace the other, because most of the reports now are being done in the dispatch area, where they can...
Or at their desk.
Or at their desk.
Yeah.
So, they've got 2 different spots.
would there be a way to like go to, you know, when it's on your shift, you could go to a designated computer and open up your window and, I mean, there doesn't have to be all
Well, it's logistics too.
workstations in
You
different
have to
rooms
think of-
anymore.
Well, the logistics of it, meaning that if they're on the first floor at task in booking or going into the previous dispatch center, you know, if those aren't there, then they gotta run up a whole flight of stairs to go to the office.
So there could be no centralized place that would work
No.
out operationally, or?
First floor maybe, but
Possibly, because
second floor
there's enough
would
spots
be-
that they can go reports or into dispatch.
We're
and
talking
do it
only
there.
the police department. How the fire department and EMS works, I couldn't tell you.
So fire has how many workstations? I mean, police have how many workstations?
Well, that's a tough one.
Oh,
I definitely
I-
actually think,
Yeah.
we definitely have more than the fire and EMS. They have a good portion. I think John, he's tapping his head about how
Just
many
a
he has.
quick mental comment, I think probably between fire and EMS, we probably have 9 or 10 total.
I was gonna go into at least
We
double
have
digits.
one full-time
on that.
fireman.
One, which he is a dedicated PC. The fire officers, I have a PC, the fire officers share 2 between them. I believe in the EMS side, they're probably,
They have
there's
2. Margie has 2 in there, and she has a third that's in there because of the Memory Pro. So you have to remember, there's additional equipment in there. Then the fire officers, I believe they each have a workstation now, and plus you, which would be the deputy chief. I think the lieutenant sometimes uses that, and then you have 2 deputy chiefs, and I think they each have a workstation.
As I said, the fire officers, they share basically 2 desktops.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's, except for firefighter Farrell, everybody else in ambulance and fire is volunteer, call.
Correct.
have, like, it seems like wild overkill here.
Well, the upper management, in the sense if you want to call it that, would
Yeah, but
typically
each
have a
office
dedicated
has a
computer.
dedicated-
I'm using mine all the time, even though I'm only call.
Now, you're talking about workstations for some of the other people. That's not a full PC, is it? It's just a,
No, it's a full.
It's a
What is it?
full-
What is a full-
It's a workstation with a monitor, sure.
But the hard drive, the OptiPlex hard drive.
all right.
We certainly can take a look at that on the second floor, but
I mean,
what
we go to a wireless system and have a laptop and that's.
security wise,
Not what we have here,
and-
that would not.
yeah, because
be-
he's got to engineer them with a lot of different software. That's usually why they cost a little bit more, because there's so much going into it with IMC and getting it set up.
I mean, everybody uses encrypted stuff now with laptops. I mean, nobody,
We have
a
to
lot of
follow
people, they're
criminal
just not
justice
using
rules, so-
workstations at all anymore. They're going.
Probably not conducive for the law enforcement on our side, because of everything, the security.
I mean, my 5 cents, it's not my meeting, but I think we should be looking at a big-time consolidation there. Go to wireless, I think that could be encrypted, no problem.
The
And
state's very concerned with wireless. Again, the state is responding to federal requirements, federal
Yeah.
security requirements, because of the sensitivity of the data, and they're very nervous about wireless, so.
Because if somebody can get into them, they can run all the names, date of births, and that's not good. And even the computers we have in the car, we've gone away from the laptops and done it's mounted in there, it's bolted in there, it's not coming out.
And again, is Bolton at risk? No, but the problem with wireless is the network drifts outside the building. So
Yeah, so-
anybody within earshot of that signal can be eavesdropping and trying to.
But I think also, I think that there might be some slightly mistaken notion that we're talking about a workstation per employee that they just get to use. There are lots of specialized workstations in the police station. You mentioned there are dedicated machines for the booking room, and one for the evidence room, and one for the armory, which serve a very specific purpose. And they're not machines that someone's going to be carrying around with them to do 12 different things. So there are workstations that are dedicated to a specific function, not necessary for someone to write a report or create a Word document or that kind of stuff. So that's why that there are more than one per person.
Yeah, so, I
How
mean,
many is that though? So how many would that be, the dedicated ones? I'm curious, out of 42.
Is there a list somewhere?
Yeah.
No, we have a list somewhere, I don't have it with us, but,
I mean, I guess
I
I
have,
agree with Stan, I'm sure there are dedicated
Oh, yeah.
ones. I'm just very curious to know which ones are dedicated, where they are, and how difficult it is for somebody to get to them, and
but
how
even,
difficult it would be to consolidate any of the other ones.
yes, I think what we're all talking about here, is there an opportunity for some consolidation and efficiency, a possibility to save some money for the hard-paying taxpayers of Bolton? But with that said, I mean, I completely understand the whole wireless versus non, and why we probably shouldn't go wireless. But at the same time, from a dedicated workstation, I mean, I would be, with the stipulation, I know nothing about technology, but if there's this one particular laptop in the armory, I mean, my laptop can handle Word, can handle Excel, can handle all these various programs. So I guess I'm trying to figure out why we need one for armory, one for records, when I think you would just need one that says, give me info about the armory, give me info about records. And then even, every full-time employee, I get that, but if I'm if I'm the day shift and I'm gonna go to laptop A or workstation A, when I'm done home sleeping, I think the person who took my shift might be able to go in and still work on
They
workshift
can.
A.
We do have roaming profiles, that's dedicated there.
All right, so-
However, that's not, yes.
My understanding was every person had their own.
No, the only would consider would be administrative staff, of course, and then
the officers do
full-time
have,
officers.
and again, when the building was designed, and, obviously, there was a desk for every officer.
Yeah.
One for the patrolman, one for the sergeants, lieutenant, and chief. So obviously, it was figured everybody would have their own desk. Part-timers, no. They can use whatever one they want. So obviously, you come in, all your stuff is there, your picture of your wife and your kids are on the desk. That's your desk. You're going to use your computer at your desk. We certainly can look at that for future planning. What we've quoted here is not gonna be affected by us consolidating anything now. What it'll do is, when we do our 3, 5, 10-year plan of upgrading and end of life and replacing, we just won't do that. If we see somebody never uses their desk, why am I gonna put a computer there? If you don't use it,
Well,
why
yeah,
have
it's not, I'm not looking for the day shift to take the guy's wife down and put up his,
Well,
I get it, but I'm just trying to.
But that's how it's set up now. You know, everybody has their own desk, their own computer, and downstairs, there's dedicated ones. Obviously, if we're doing evidence, I don't wanna, take this, type it in, and then run around the
Oh, no,
corner.
no,
So that's why they were, figured to have computers where they are.
Yeah.
And like I said, in the reports room, when number 2 dies, or I need to put it somewhere else to replace another one that dies, I'm not gonna replace that one. We are thinking of the future and cutting back
Oh, definitely in those terms.
as we
If
can. So I
repurpose
think,
anything.
your point in general, other than the laptop, we'll try to consolidate things and not, like I said, if we don't need a computer somewhere, we won't do it. Makes sense. Why spend the money and throw the money out?
All right,
But I don't think the laptops for our security purposes would work. Because if they do get out and people get them, then if they hack into it, we're in trouble. And
We do not remove anything from that building. No
Yeah, no.
laptops, nothing leaves.
The previous chief had a laptop and.
That stayed in his office.
It's in his office, never, it was,
That was it.
he could have took it home, but he
Never.
didn't. And I don't even think he ever logged into IMC
No,
with that computer
records, no.
at that point.
all right. So, I'm looking at the sheet, I think you guys have the same one, on
Yes.
the maintenance. So just on maintenance, I got 2,500, 4,700, 2,000, 3,500, 8,400, 16,600, 15,708. Is that what you guys have?
Yes, sir.
All right, so I come out to 53,408, and the request is 56,448. So that's a delta of 3,040. So are we missing something? What I don't want to do is do what happened last year where we shorted you 26 grand.
I would have to revisit that and look at it to see
Do-
off the top of my, I believe you if you,
Yeah.
but,
It is 53,408.
Yeah.
What do you have?
53,408.
That's what I have.
408, all right. I'll have to see where we.
the difference was what dollar amount?
3,040.
There was, originally I had like 8 replacements for desktops, and I reduced it to 5. It could have been where I didn't
Okay.
refresh the
Yep.
assumption. So if I had the opportunity to relook at that and make sure it was correct,
All right.
yeah.
So with the assumption of that, we'll go with 53,408, and if there's some, okay.
On the
Okay. Yeah, save the $3,000, good catch.
Question about the last line, though, the 15,708. You have a request in.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, there's an article for
The tower.
a new tower. So these are items that are in addition to that?
This is in addition to that repeater capital
So
purchase.
it will make it all work better.
Yes,
I guess
yes
I guess
and
my
no.
question would be, if it's part of the new system, why not put it in with the article? Instead of in the maintenance
Because they're both critical, they're both priority things we need to do, but right now, we only have street power going into the repeater. So when the power goes out, there's no power to run our radios except for 4 car batteries. And they only last for so long. So what the fire department has to do, and they've been doing it for years, and nobody over the past 10 years has brought this forward and tried to get this moving, and I just have to get this moving. That the fire department would run up with a fire truck, drop a generator, gas generator, and fire it up to get our repeater running again, so we would have our radios.
You can't make this up.
No, it really should have been in the initial purchase of the whole system. So every couple of hours, every 3-4 hours, fire department's gotta run up there and refuel
Yeah.
the generator.
Mess it up.
Okay, it's sitting out there, I'm not sitting there watching it, anybody driving by that their house is out of power could just unplug it and walk away.
And where is it? No.
Powder Hill Road or something.
So, Chief, I remember you guys talking to, when we went, so this is basically steady state to make things a little bit more efficient and easier, and it's also assuming the article fails.
Well, that's different. That's replacing all the repeaters. That's, the two, we've got two up there. It's a police and a fire repeater. And they're close, if not past their end of life. And they don't cover the whole town. So just to put new repeater and satellite voters in different locations, so if the officer's on Still River Road behind the hill, he might catch a repeater over on Forbush Mill. And that will send it to the tower, which sends us back to dispatch. So they're walking around with a 5-watt portable. That usually is not strong enough to go back to the tower on West Berlin Road.
So, to Ken's point, so this is even with that whole, assuming the article goes through, we'd still be in the same environment with the fire.
Right, yes, the article didn't include that, because
It's gotta have that.
Yeah.
this is one of the things that keeps it running, and if the 300,000 failed, I'd rather
This
just get the 15, 16 to at least do the power. And another problem is the service is right on the edge of the road, and lately we've had some kids playing with it. It shuts down the repeater. If somebody hits it, it's more cost to put it inside the fence, so I'm thinking leave it out. I'll put some Jersey barriers around it, put a fence around it, so there's some security.
All right, and so the idea of why this is, what we try not to do is just put a one-time into the budget, but I can see because it's under 25, Don, is that where we're going with this? That we just put it in the budget, and this gets through, and then it's just gonna fall apart. It won't be here next year.
Exactly.
The only recurring cost is propane.
Yeah.
If I need to refill it at any point. There's no service agreements, there's no maintenance.
That answers my question.
All right.
Unless it fails, and if it breaks, I'd have to come back and ask for something.
Yeah, no, okay.
So we good on maintenance? Can we continue on?
Mr. Chairman, I just have one.
Yeah.
So, looking at maintenance, the page 2 notes and justification, $8,400 added, replace 5 workstations, police, fire, and ambulance upgrades, Win 7, Win 10, with expansion to Win 13, and then $16,600 for server replace. Is any of this gonna come under, like, consolidation, or would that number come down because we may not replace any of the workstations?
No, this is,
Some of the workstations?
Well, the server's different.
this is, the server, that has to be replaced. That, Paul can answer any questions on that. But that has to be replaced. On what Paul's giving you is a 3-year plan. So we start replacing computers now, so that when it comes time and we go to Windows 10, we're not behind the 8 ball and hit you with 42 workstations. I think he's doing it at 5 each year, so that'll be a recurring cost. That every year, we're gonna come back for 5 new workstations.
We looked at the whole environment from PC, personal PC, PCs that people use, server, and software. And so, the public safety, the 2 main products, if you exclude what's moved to dispatch, which is the records management system, is Exchange and SharePoint, and keeping them bundled on servers.
On the server.
So, it's all virtual service. I don't know how technical you are, but the base metal server runs on Microsoft Hyper-V, and then we can build the servers on top of that. The goal is to have 2 servers in place that the servers can fail over and we have hardware redundancy. And to be conscious of budget, what we want to do is keep one of those servers under warranty, let the other one fall out of warranty. So we're using the older one to back up the newer one, basically.
So I get the server, again, I just come back with, isn't there some way to go from 42 workstations down to something reasonable?
Yeah, Chief Nelson says he's going to evaluate it as we do that. I mean, this year is just, to begin the process of that. I mean, whatever we do in that first year, it still won't be enough for years 2 and 3 as Windows 7's completely phased out. So, I mean, even if he was very, very aggressive with consolidation, I doubt he could do it. There wouldn't be a third-year purchase. But you'd be looking at, getting rid of 33% of the PCs up there. I think that's aggressive. I don't think that could really happen. So, but, that's a workflow within the department, not necessarily a technical discussion.
Are we doing a 3-year contract with
No.
1 year? What's the plan?
With Paul?
Yes.
Yeah, 1 year with the option
The
to,
contract that I wrote, we're in the first year of it. It's a 3-year contract, but we have a clause in, I wrote a clause into the contract so that year 2 or year 3 are at the town's discretion, whether or not we retain the vendor or not. Which is why, even though it's a 3-year contract, I have the ability to go out to rebid in 1 year because I have that clause, those clauses in there.
And we have a game plan in place, given that scenario, with the game plan of a 3-year technology replace underlying that, which may change relative to vendors. We've got a game plan in place?
Yep, we're
Okay.
working, yep.
Tom, did that answer your question? All right. So, yeah, I think we're good with maintenance.
software just went up a couple $100. And just looking at that,
You would think, after the whole discussion with technology, that
I'm just trying to think, I think
The
some went
data,
up,
the
some went
software
down.
support,
Yeah,
yeah.
minimal on that. Trash disposal,
Is that enough?
level funding on trash?
Yeah.
No, because I think we're.
You're already at.
Yeah, I think we're close on trash. I think we,
Well, I was asked to level fund,
Yeah.
so, on those types of expenses.
That's good. We'll
You know,
leave
the
that
trash
there.
is picked up, when it gets picked up, which is great, and the bills come in and we pay them, and,
do we want to increase? Do we want to
well,
estimate?
You can pay.
I'm like Brad to a point where we're just gonna wait and see, like if
Yeah, I
we
would-
need an issue, right? it can
personally, I would like to reprimand that my
Well,
phone
you know,
for making it juice up money.
I know, last week was the same thing, I saw something that they really
Yeah.
needed more money, and I didn't say anything, and then he did
We
say
try
he
to
needed more
stay
postage.
cognizant of that, and be fiscally sound all the time, so.
Telephone gun went down.
Went down mainly because
The
most of it,
transfer.
we've got them to pay for it at Devon's. Supplies, level funded 1,000, diesel 1,000, and miscellaneous 15.
Well, when do you pay telephone? like-
Monthly.
Monthly fee.
So we've got a few extra lines that we still keep at the station, elevator, the fire alarm, and then this is mainly all the cell phone and air
Air
cards.
cards for the data
For computers.
terminals on the cruisers.
Okay.
We have to pay for all those, the data plans and everything.
Oh,
Yeah, we-
that hasn't come due because you still have a 14,000.
No, you have to remember that a lot of stuff has, when we were budgeted for the current fiscal year, Devon's was still in transition. So we were fully budgeted for the telephones, and so now we're coming into a new fiscal year preparation where we've actually decreased even more than we anticipated.
Yeah, when we get to the next one, you're gonna be pleasantly surprised. Like that. All right,
I think there was also a question about miscellaneous.
Yes.
Miscellaneous.
What is miscellaneous?
I want to look in your
We're
data.
trying to get rid of miscellaneous as a line item.
Yeah. Miscellaneous, what do we got?
Well, with the miscellaneous, that's the water coolers, because we don't have bubblers. So we have the bottled water, just like we have at the town hall, so.
If we could move it into either purchases of services or supplies, just.
We're getting rid of miscellaneous.
Oh, that's
Again, the
fine.
optics don't look good when people have
Oh, when
miscellaneous
they're
font,
looking
you
at,
know,
it's not a
people-
problem if you want to do that.
Yeah.
Move it to supplies.
Yeah.
And we just get rid of miscellaneous entirely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, because you have miscellaneous, I know, but there's also miscellaneous, I hate a miscellaneous
Yeah.
line.
Yeah.
And there's also one in public safety.
Yeah.
So why?
That's where we are.
That's
That's
what
what
we're
we're talking about right now.
Oh, okay, and, well then, okay.
So if we,
5780, we want to merge into 5200.
5,200.
Right.
If we could do that, that would be great, it's just a,
Hold on, where do you guys want it? Purchase services?
Or supplies. I mean, that's
Alright, let-
1,500 for water,
Yeah, we, no, not
That's
the.
the Thursday?
Yeah,
but that's a lot for water.
that's the fire department,
That's a lot.
EMS.
It's a lot for water. You're doing the state contract,
We,
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
Yep,
we
Belmont
are.
Springs, yeah.
but that's a lot.
We have a water.
We're very thirsty.
We're really thirsty too.
There's only two of you, and there's,
Yeah,
how many?
that's true. I know,
80,
yeah.
90 people on our side, between police, fire, and ambulance? It might be more than, yeah.
We do water recovery for
We
the fire
spent
trucks.
500 and we get
So the
1,500
firemen
budget.
need bottled water.
They may put cases of water on the fire truck.
Oh, so that's all in cases also, that's not the.
That's all the coolers, cases, coolers, everything. Yep.
All right, supplies.
So we'll change
My fourth
supplies to
on
2,500?
Yeah.
It shows it.
Supplies.
Yeah,
If you want us to go to supplies, then I think it's supplies.
Supplies, 25.
Yeah.
Plus 25.
Well, we're not plussing 20, we're not.
No, we're
No,
changing.
we're moving
I'm
it
just
forward.
We're adding one to one and
We're merging.
subtracting it.
And subtracting. I'm not giving you-
Don't worry, Brenda, she's not gonna add it.
No,
Diesel.
that's for the generator, fuel.
Yeah.
We have that
Generator.
big generator over the public safety
So-
building, we have to keep it fueled. It's based upon need,
Well, I'm just
Connie.
looking at, yeah, I know,
Yeah.
it's, you requested what, last year? No, you
Yeah.
allocated 1,500, you spent $264. So,
Yeah,
Well,
that's,
yeah, that's one of those, if power goes down for a week,
you gotta
we gotta refill that diesel. So if the power doesn't go down for a week, we'll
it
have
just
a...
sits there until it's needed.
Through December. Oh, you got January.
Let's do.
All right. So you guys, are you good, or we've got some more, we've got two more budgets to get through. Connie,
Let's vote on the public safety.
Zero.
Yeah.
Ken, Ted, how are we doing? Are you guys, you want to bring something up, or you want to move forward?
We'll yield to the chair.
Oh, no, I'd be interested.
You want to just vote on this
I would
one?
suggest we vote on this one.
Yes.
Because it's more than just the police.
Yeah. All right, so what I have is a total of 215,385, which is basically taking the 218, the current 218,425, and minusing out the delta, off of the maintenance number. So I have a total of 215,385.
That's what I
Okay. My friends in finance have that as well. So I'll entertain a motion to approve public safety 200 at 215,385.
I so move.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed?
Before I release Paul, any questions for Paul? I don't think he needs to hang around any longer.
He's like, you've been tortured enough.
All right, well, thanks, Paul.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Thank you very much.
Good night.
Can I request communication? 210, let's do 210 last, if we can. Communications will be a nice little...
All right.
You want to do 299?
Oh, 299, sorry. 299.
Yeah.
Not 210. We'll do that last. Now, on that one, I need to, we got a final figure. The 157 was the ballpark price from Devon's. The final price for the year is 157,472.15. We were close.
157,
472.15.
all right, let's just go with 472. That's too tough.
Oh, no, because...
We're gonna,
I'm gonna put in the 15. You are.
Now, that's a decrease
No.
from the previous year, and that is a result of two more towns joining Devon's. So Townsend and Berlin came on, and that dropped down the yearly amount. So there's not a lot of haggling there. I hate to say, we're pretty much, we're in it for the long run.
Yes.
The price is the price.
And I think this came up when we met, but are they now pretty much full? Like they're not gonna be taking on?
At this point, what they have for structure now, their infrastructure, they're full. They should not. They have room to expand into the building that they're in. But at this point, I don't think that's on the
It's not on the table. There'll be a debate at some point because, I'm our representative on the Oversight Committee. And there's a school of thought that we might want to expand out and take on more towns, which is something that the state, I'm sure, would be happy about because this dispatch center is actually viewed as a model around the state. But the other thing that we're talking about, something that I'm in favor of, is expanding our services and keeping the same amount of towns. For instance, we don't support E911 right now, and some of us think we'd be better served by expanding the offerings for the existing towns.
So can you expand what is E911?
E911 would be, right now, if you call 911 from your cell phone, you go to the state police dispatch, it gets handled and then it gets kicked back to the appropriate dispatch center, whoever that may be. If we took on E911, it would be able to be direct to a dispatch center without involving the state police. That's one example. I think there are other opportunities out there, but and the way the dispatch center would have to be broken down is if we did take on more towns, it wouldn't be the existing staff taking more calls. It would be, we would split up into like an A and B or north and south and that type of thing. And one section would be responsible for X number of towns, and then the other section would be responsible for Y number of towns, and they'd be the same town. So we'd actually be split into two, if you look at it that way. And we do have the room for expansion, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't do it at some point, but when we do discuss it, my vote would be that we would expand the services that we offer now.
So to that point, Don, would the expansion of services, could that ever potentially include the, what we discussed earlier tonight in Emergency Management 291, which was purchases services $3,900 for the town-wide emergency call? Could that ever be somehow factored into that as a service? And it would obviously come at a cost, but I mean, it's $3,900 a year that the town of Bolton is absorbing in this, which has proved, useful. I mean, there's been some emergencies that, even the short time I've been in town, we didn't have the service, and then we moved to it, and it's proved helpful, but...
Well, the answer is it very likely could at some point handle that. For instance, the reason we bought Code Red is we used to get reverse 911 support very graciously from the Sheriff's Department, the Worcester County Sheriff's Department. They lost that capability in some sort of an accident, and to our knowledge, it's not been replaced. So we wanted to have some form of ability to be able to get emergency messages out. The nice thing about Code Red is that it can be sent to a specific neighborhood. I mean, it doesn't have to be town-wide. A few months ago, we had a missing child, and a Code Red notice went out to just the people in that area, and the child was successfully found, unharmed. But yeah, I mean, it's certainly a reasonable thing to look at. And then, of course, we look at the cost of how much it would drive up our assessment. I doubt it would cost each town $3,900.
That's my point.
So that would be an opportunity.
Yeah.
Right.
Similar to the Are You OK grant that they got, where they got that program and they offered it out to all the different towns, so possibly...
Right, so that's something certainly, I'll be keeping an eye on. And if there's an opportunity...
Time would be faster as well, right?
It would, because I don't have anybody at the station to, like, if I need to send out that emergency, like the missing child, we all had to go back to the station, stop looking for the kid, and send the message out, because there was nobody there to do that, and Devon's doesn't do this. It would be me, Dawn, Linda, or a few other people around. So, yeah, while we're looking for them, we're running back, sending that message out.
Yeah, no, it's just, I mean, it's just economies of scale, right? I mean, the movement to Devon's has, I mean, just in the first year, it showed a huge decrease on what our operating budget was before. And then from the year on Devon's to this year, with the, onboarding of 2 additional towns, the assessment falling that much more.
Telephone costs went
Yeah,
down, some
clearly,
IT support went down.
Economies of scale here, so it just popped into my head because we had just talked about,
I can make the recommendation to the board member.
Well, the board member will be keeping his eyes open for it, that's for sure.
that's, it should, yeah, I like the way you guys are talking, it's good. All right. So, 299, now Connie, I know you were trying to drive up the cost a little bit, right? On 299, are you okay with this decrease?
I surely am.
Okay.
Yes, I am.
All right, so I'll entertain a motion for 299 communications to approve that 157, 472 and 15 cents. Or you're not.
So moved.
Second.
All right. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay.
So is this the place to ask whether this is working, whether the regional dispatch is working?
It's
From your
working
point of
very
view?
well for.
Or should that be under police?
There's obviously 2 different levels you look at it. For us on the police, it's working great. We've transitioned very well. The officers are dealing very well with people that they may not even know on the other end, where the dispatchers, they all knew. So I've gotten great reports from the officers, I've gotten great reports from the director. We do have that Monday through Friday business type of thing where we did the survey. I think it's on an average of about 130 people come into the station.
A week?
A month. That'd be a lot.
I didn't know if those are library numbers. I'm sorry. I missed the library last week. I had to put it in there somewhere. I'm sorry.
And that's a wide range of people just coming in off the street to file a report, identity theft, there was an accident, instead of staying on the scene, they came to the station, license to carry, records request. There's a wide range, to use the bathroom, training room, or anything along that line. So it's been working well. I'm still trying to get the front door locked so that people don't get past that barrier. And they push the button to get the dispatcher. Because if they make it in there, they're sitting there until they figure out nobody's coming to talk to them. Or somebody in the station sees somebody sitting there and they move on. So it's going well. I have heard from some citizens throughout the town that they are not happy not having a human being to come up and meet and greet them when they come to the front window. The only way we're gonna get over that is by hiring more people and increasing my budget. And I don't think that's a feasible plan, and that hasn't even been addressed here, because I think we're handling the people that are coming in very well. It does mean, the officer does have to come in off the street a little bit more, but they may have had to come in anyways. The FedEx guy shows up and he needs a signature. If there's nobody in the building, person's gotta come in off
On
the
the
street.
off chance, but a lot of times we're there
We're up and down the stairs quite
all
a
the
bit.
time, yeah.
So-
going in.
so
I'm glad you answered it that
Yeah.
way. That's good.
Especially if they have 42 workstations that
Yeah,
are going to
42.
be used.
So it is working well.
All right.
Thank you.
So now we go back to 210.
All right.
It's been worse.
It's
Ken,
better
I'm-
than last.
I'm actually very happy to say that, other than just a few spots,
Yeah.
it's pretty much level funded. As last year budget, went up and down, Vinnie retired, interim chief, there was a lot going on, we had to figure out a lot, and we're starting to, we're still 2 people down, so we're trying to get out of that tailspin and get the full staffing and make everything work. But once we figured out all the ups and downs, salary went down a little bit. Wages went up slightly, just a little bit. Step increases, or COLA from what it was or previous.
No, those haven't come in yet.
Yep.
Or have they?
No.
No, okay.
No, we don't put any COLAs in,
Yeah.
but increasing it. And on the overtime is where the military benefit is going to increase 107 up to 123. In the contract, they're in the guidelines, they're getting 32 days a year. 34, I'm sorry, 34. And I have 2 employees that are military.
They're active guard.
That's all.
Mhm.
So it's great, God bless them, but now I've got 68 more days that I got a budget for. And that's pretty much how it,
Plus with the
Wow.
fact that you're also down 2, right, so.
we're down, but that figure doesn't have anything to do with being down or understaffed or what. That's just to go for the contractual stuff that we've normally put in. And then you do the full-time, part-time split, 80-20, 50-50. It's quite a algorithm that Lorraine's figured out. That everybody, we try to figure out. And honestly, if I had to put every single item in there, I'd probably double that 123. But obviously, we go from history and we do what we can. So I think that we put out, let me just take one peek.
What are you looking for?
Oh, I'm just seeing if there was anything other than military. But I think that was it.
That was the one, because we're fully staffed budgeted. However, even though we're down an officer right now, we're in the process of hiring, so we're like in that transition, resignation, new hire. So, but if you
But
see,
I thought a couple months ago you said you guys were down 2 people.
Well, we're down 2, but that's just, but for numbers, we're
budgeted for full staff.
We're budgeted for
Because
full staff, but we
They're
just...
coming on board.
Okay.
We might have a downtime of 30 days, 45 days, we get a new employee.
Oh, it's a lot more than 30 days.
I was just.
Oh, I know, but it's more like 3 months to 6 months before we can get somebody. By the time we advertise and do all our process, and then they give notice, it could be 3 months before we hire somebody. So when somebody gives a 2-week notice, my hair gets a little bit grayer every time. And it's pretty gray right now.
You came in here looking like a young man.
Just to clarify, the military service, the 34 days are when they are on duty?
Whenever they get called,
Duty?
yes, so any of their training, so their week, anything along that line. It bumped up from 17 days.
It has increased because there's a lot of deployment that's gonna be happening in the future. So, not to say in Massachusetts, but a lot of training is going on.
So that 123 was pretty much driven by the military, 16,000 roughly.
All right, so, before we go on any further, let's just stick on salary. There are questions, did I see any questions? Yes, Don?
On the SRO,
Yes, ma'am.
is that negotiated and does that include the benefits?
No.
I heard at a meeting, the Tri-Town meeting, that I thought
It's supposed to cover the...
they're supposed to cover the benefits.
Yeah, it's supposed to cover the benefits.
And I would be happy to give you that number.
I thought the testimony at the Tri-Town was that Bolton is covering the pension and OPEB.
No, I'm talking health insurance, Tom,
Oh.
life insurance.
But we don't figure that in our budget.
Not
No, but that has to be,
She is,
Yeah, she does, yeah.
but that has to be given to the school so that we're reimbursed, is what I'm saying.
Meaning that we have not heard back from the school committee yet as to what they're going to present to the town.
Right.
Right now, the cash receipt, I'm just carrying over from last
Right.
year
Last year's
to
number.
mirror
And
this
that's-
year.
yeah.
So if those changes are due, then we need to adjust our budget. based
Now that it's a
on that.
full-time officer, they should be reimbursing us full-time for the health and life insurance.
No, that wasn't the deal.
Oh, it wasn't
Not for, yeah.
half,
Yeah,
even though they're,
because they're working half the year with the school department and half the year for the town, so...
okay.
Right.
So they couldn't, they weren't gonna take on the 100% of the benefits.
Yeah, it's not.
That's right, it's, well,
I think when you figured it, you figured in 33% and then we
33% for
divided it
fringe,
at a certain amount.
that's right.
Well,
Whatever the salary is, we figured 33% for fringe.
It's a 36-week
Well,
school year
see,
that we,
that's not accurate, though, is what I'm saying, because, for instance, when Eric was there, it was a family health insurance. You know,
Yeah.
there's a big difference between covering a family and an individual.
Mhm.
You know, we're talking the town pays probably 14, 15,000 as opposed to 6 or 7,000.
But that's fine, so we have a new head count in there, so.
Oh, I know, I'm just
Calculate
saying
differently, that's
that it should be, it's just not a flat 33%, that,
But even so,
it was just a question or whatever.
Yeah, okay, so I'll have to talk to Don
Yeah.
to go over the next budget.
With the school
Okay.
committee.
But that doesn't have anything to do with any of the
Yeah.
stuff that's
Yeah.
here.
Okay, so where I am right now, I mean, we're still, so I understand the salary, where that is, the slight increase on wages, and then the overtime because of the rules change on the military, and there's two, so I
Yeah.
get all that. So those numbers are justified, I mean, healthy, but, I mean, justified. And so that comes out to 1,084, rather, 1,084,443. Okay. All right, so let's continue.
Hide services?
What is that?
Well, that's
Mr.
just
Chairman, I
from,
just have a question.
Yeah.
I'm trying to understand the military, so what is that? Why did that cause the increase?
Well, we never had, until last year, we never adopted the Mass General Law statute that we pay for military, if someone is called away, either deployed or if they're going off for training and their annual, 2 weeks. We now have committed to paying what the statute allows, which is if they're deployed, they get made whole for their salary. If they're on maneuvers, if they're on for training or whatever, then they get their full salary plus their military pay. And it gets tricky when you figure some of it because they're eligible to be paid 17 days for local service here, if you will. But the law actually points out 34 days. And the difference is there's 17 days, it depends on where you fall because the federal fiscal year is different than our fiscal year. So if they're eligible for 17 days, just in the window from July, August, September, they can get 17 days if they're away at that time. Plus, from October on to June, they're eligible for another 17 days. So it's 34 total, an additional 17 if they fall within that period of the fiscal year. So it all depends on when they're taking their time.
And is that triggered by a deployment overseas or weekend work or how?
Well, because it depends. If they're deployed overseas, they get the delta between what the military's paying them and what we're paying them. So they're made whole.
And we
If they're-
make them whole?
We make them whole, yes. And if they're away for their annual 2 weeks, if they're away for a weekend, if they're away for maneuvers, whatever training, then the law says that they get their full police pay plus whatever the military is paying them.
But Tom, your question on the increase of overtime of 107, 123 is the fact that the town is now accounting for those additional days. If you're one of those deployed individuals, you're not in town, so these guys have got to fill in your shift. And so there's more shifts to fill in, hence the reason why the overtime has gone up.
That's right.
And the number of days that they're gone has gone up, so the number of our overtime. So we're out the additional days, we're paying them plus the additional overtime.
Correct. And before FY17, we hadn't adopted that statute, so we never had to pay that before.
And how did we adopt that? How, procedurally?
It was procedurally at town meeting.
I see.
All right.
Expenses broken down.
It was a town meeting with union contract, or?
It was
because of the
both.
union contract?
We agreed to it in the contract pending approval of town
okay.
meeting.
Right.
Hired services.
Yeah.
more questions. Yep. So we've gone up on that, just because the more people we lose, the more people we hire, we have to send them out for physicals, psychological exams. If there's any testing involved, lieutenant, sergeant, anything along that line for promotions. And we've already gone over by 900, just because of the recent turnover at this point.
Well, and you said you went up in that?
We went up 1,000 just because I've got 2 open spots right now.
Okay, I'm looking at training, never mind.
Okay.
My
Hired
eyes are
services.
playing tricks.
I have hired
I
services
got it.
flat at 4,000, but I have an increase of 1,000, from 3 to 4
Yep.
on building expense and services.
No, that's what I
building
think.
expenses.
It's 1 0.
Jesus.
You see the
That one's gone, that one's.
That was a bitch, me too.
That's why I brought my ruler.
Right.
I tell you what, I'm using this.
All right. Now you're up.
What, buy 10 rulers for the next time?
Little magnifiers.
Okay.
All right. And then again, if I have no turnover and no promotions, I wouldn't be asking for more money, but right now I have to take care of it. Training, level funded. Lockup, level funded. Office supplies, same. Firearms and firearm supplies. Now, we went up and down because I've taken out the taser. I've taken out we were gonna buy 3 every year. And we've got 6 right now, and we've looked at it and it's working well. Obviously, there's some expenses. We still are doing the insurance, so that after the end of life, I get new ones. We're paying for new ones for the 6 that
A
we
little
have.
more expensive that way.
Right, batteries and the cartridges, those are all concurrent in prices, so we still have a little bit of cost in there. So we went down on taser, I need to buy a couple more guns, because as we got bigger, if I don't have enough of one gun, the other person may not want that gun, so I always have to have a couple backups, just in case the gun fails, or if we take a gun. I gotta have backups. So we went up and down, so we're actually I shouldn't be saying so much, I went down, so.
Yeah.
All right. Uniforms, same.
When do you, is that union kind of thing?
That's all contractual on that one, so they get their money and then they spend it on uniforms. And so they get one on January 1st and July 1st.
Yes.
That's why it looks
Half and
like
half.
it does.
So if it's 1,000, they get 500 one.
Is that just a long-standing tradition? Is that?
I think
I mean,
that,
this is my uniform, and I pay for this, right? I mean, I don't. My company doesn't, but I wear this thing every day.
Yeah.
So what's the deal?
You don't have a contract, right?
It's
Make
contractual.
it different, we also.
It's a union.
It's a union. All right.
Even before there was a union, we had uniform numbers.
Yeah,
Yes, we
it's
did.
always been.
yeah.
So,
Out-of-state travel, 1,050.
What is that for?
That's in case, that's a chief's contract thing. So if I want to go to a chief's conference,
Out of
there'll
state.
be some money available to get me there. Dues and subscription, level funded 3,500. And let's see, miscellaneous.
What is?
That's the
Oh, boy.
That's what I,
What is?
Thanks for reminding me, Brian.
that's what I.
All right, so, pretty much when I started here,
What year?
1992, we had some parking tickets. We finally, with Vinnie, we finally ran out of those parking tickets. We don't write a lot of parking tickets.
No.
We could.
And
Wait,
I wish I'd run a
just
meeting.
wait till you guys hear the story. 'Cause I already heard
Well,
this.
which one? Because now
This
you gotta remind me. But
Holy
it was a generic parking ticket that they bought probably 40 years ago.
That doesn't surprise me.
And it was everything. So if you rode parking on Main Street after 1 o'clock, it wasn't a good ticket. There's no bylaw. They weren't coordinated to the bylaw. So what I've done is I've gone to the parking ticket place and I've said, okay, I'll give you a list of what I want. And they'll print me out numbered parking tickets so that, obviously Pam or whoever at the town hall
Me.
can keep track of them.
She's the parking.
I'm the parking clerk.
She's the parking clerk. See how much I use her, I forgot.
So you certainly don't need $2,400, because all you only do.
Well, the reason you're not seeing tickets is because Vinnie came over here and he wanted you guys to buy the parking tickets. Because we write them, we don't get the money from them,
you don't get the money for anything.
We
It
don't
all
get the
goes to
money.
the general fund.
It all does, so he pretty much said, oh, if they're not gonna pay for it, we're not gonna do it, so they said, we'll just write it on the town bylaw citation that we have, for like the marijuana citation of any civil offenses. How many tickets have you gotten?
In 11 years, I think between marijuana and parking, I've probably got 10.
No.
15.
How many years?
20.
Come on.
20
tickets.
20 and 11
Parking
years.
tickets, we used to write
20 and 11
over the
years.
past 5 years, the parking tickets have crashed because we don't have parking tickets.
Yeah.
There's nobody here who's
Yeah.
gonna, wants to write a bylaw violation for a parking ticket. There's no envelope to mail it. It's kind of not conducive to police work and running up and writing the 3 or 4 things you have to do. It's, what's your name? Where do you live? What's your phone number?
So why is it at 2,400?
I know, is that
Because,
No, well, I gotta
he's hoping, because he's hoping to buy tickets for another 20 years.
Well, yeah, that's,
20 years,
It's
that's,
a one-time
yeah.
purchase.
and it's not something you can just say, I want 500. There's a certain setup fee and so forth. And
So
I went to Hudson, I said, who do you use? They buy a lot
It's a
of parking tickets.
minimum purchase.
So that's that $2,400.
Right.
Yes.
So it's a
We'll get
one-time
the
in, one-time out. You
Yeah.
won't see me for 20 years looking for that money again.
Let's put that in
Office.
office.
can we persuade you to order more speeding tickets?
Those, we don't pay for those. Those come free from the register.
Oh,
Yeah.
So just what happens though if like a bylaw changes?
And we ordered a million.
Well, I'm not gonna buy 10,000 of these. I forget what the exact, if it's 2,500 or 5,000 tickets. Like when the handicap went from 50 up to 100, we just told the officers to scratch it out, put 100. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, it's the minimum, like, they're gonna whack you on the setup fee, right? And
Yeah.
so,
So can we just move that up to office supplies
We can, yeah, sure.
yeah.
and get rid of this?
Yeah, because it's just a one-time 20-year fee.
Yeah, you want, as long, yeah, I don't think we'll be writing that many parking tickets. that
So
you-
office supplies, we're gonna say plus.
Well, I mean, I would,
Minus.
the fact that we're gonna go spend $2,400.
Let's issue $2,400
Yeah, I'm
tickets.
okay with you guys juicing up the tickets. I mean, let's just focus on out-of-towners, all right? I mean,
Lots of that.
Yeah, you can get stickers.
What else is in office supplies? $5,000?
That's always kind of.
Well, the office supplies is new this year for us because we don't have a dispatch center. We used to have office supplies down in the dispatch budget of line item 299. So that's where all our paper, pens, all of the toner, everything.
But that's where the tickets should go too.
Yes.
Yeah, you
That's
guys,
what I mean, yeah.
$5,000 is a lot of
no, I mean, if you,
digital
Yes.
if you look at the, if you look at 299, you guys can see last year, we zeroed those things out because we moved them in to other places. So in 299 communications is strictly the Devon's.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, move the office
So-
over, please. All right. So 24 up to office supplies, bulletproof vests, level funded 1,600. And, obviously that goes up and down as we,
It's on a need basis. It's a 5-year renewal, and if there's federal money involved and state money refunds, then I'm able to apply to those.
plus if we get a lot of
Reimbursement,
new
they go back.
employees also.
Then they go back, that money goes back to the town.
He's adding them up.
I'm following along, chief.
All right, would you like me to continue, or do you want to
Please
just,
do.
you want to stop at that and
No,
add
we're-
that total up?
I like the banter. No,
All right.
please continue, sir.
Cruiser repairs, same. We're still not past that little influx of no cruiser for 1 year, where we bumped up the cruiser maintenance.
It was in 2016.
So I really got to keep it at the same, because I'm still got an aging fleet that is not leveled off. So I can say I'm saving money by not repairing stuff. So level funded there. Cruiser supplies, 7,500, that's just to replace stuff. Gas, 14.2. And tires, $5,000.
Yeah.
All right.
And all level funded there. Tires, I always spend that out, so that's not a problem. 7,000 on equipment for cruiser.
Which is different than supplies, because
Yeah.
we have this conversation, and I see, so equipment is one thing, and then supplies is Narcan,
There's a lot,
Right.
well, we'll tell you, right?
Sure,
Expendable versus.
considerable list sometimes.
Expendable versus equipment insurance.
Right.
We'll go into here, we'll show.
no, it's,
Oh, okay.
I'm okay with it, I
Okay,
just,
good.
On the cruiser purchase, the 36-120, that's gone up because the 36-120 was kind of a frontline cruiser, which it was, but it didn't have the cage, it didn't have that. We upgraded and figured it out. We had, because the chief's expedition there, that the black one kind of it was costing too much to repair, and the last amount of repairs, we sent that over to Harold. Harold took that vehicle. And Vinnie kind of just took one of the old Dodge Chargers. So I kept on the same, and we were going to put in for a new administrative car, which was the 36-1. And if I'm correct, the article was closer to 38, 39,000 for a mainline cruiser. So the annual increase, few percentages. Yep, so the warrant last year was 38.9. We've gone up $1,000, mainly for the cost of the car going up a little bit, and putting a cage so that they can...
Prisoner cage.
Prisoner cage.
So last year was not the 36-120 that it says, it was 30.
Well, that's what we were given, and then plans changed, so we may do with what we had. Actually, Dan Keller, who took over Fleet for me, did a lot of wheeling and dealing, and got like a $8,000 lighting package for the same price as the 38.9. So, credit to him. I should have been spending 38.
Dan's a good man.
He's a great guy, so he saved us a lot of money. But now I gotta put it back on the new one, so when we get a new car.
So, all right. Any questions from others on advisory? Tom?
Just going back to the overtime on the explanation, salary, history, and budget request. Chief?
Yep.
So if you go down the spreadsheet at the bottom, fiscal year 18 wages overtime, there's 3 lines, wages overtime.
Okay. Yep. All right.
So there's going to be, you're estimating $59,000 in overtime will be to cover shifts of people that are at training.
Yeah, training, firearms, taser, yep.
You have to take 4 cents, court, holdovers, shift fill, extra shifts for investigations.
For the 58.8, yes.
For the 58, yeah, 853.
Yep.
And then the 59,092, full-time right of first refusal.
Yep.
Yep. That's when they,
That's
by
in
the contract, yeah, for any of the open shifts, sick, vacation, comp, anything like that, they get first crack at the first 50% on scheduled stuff. On unscheduled, it goes to a 50-50, so you call in sick, if it's a full-timer, he gets first shot at it. And then the next time somebody calls in sick, it'll go to a part-timer.
And then the 5689 for the SRO, 5 and 2.
Yes. Right, they, by the contract, they get the same as somebody on the 4 and 2, so they may work Monday to Friday, and they don't, so when their 6-week cycle goes through on a 4 and 2 person, they're gonna only work 4 days on 2 weeks, so they get paid that extra 2 days. So the person on the admin schedule will get 17 extra days off a year.
Paid.
Paid, yes. Yeah. And then we obviously got to backfill the shifts.
Tom, you went into the wrong line of work. Any other questions?
Yeah, can you just briefly indicate what the fleet is at this point? And what it will become once you have the new, whatever it is?
Like I said,
We're glad
I don't know if,
That was not a plan, that was not a plan. I really wanted to know.
all right, so on the last go around, when we got 2 cars, we got rid of 2 cars. And when this new car comes in, car 5, which is gonna have the most mileage at 131,000, that is a comma, that's a 2007 Dodge Charger. That one's in rough shape. You can't open the driver's door about that much. There's a lot of, yes, of course. There's a lot of repairs to that car that we're just kind of putting aside and not repairing because we're gonna get rid of that car to replace it. And the fleet in overall, I will say, is between average and good. You know, we're talking, the lowest mileage is on the 2 new cars.
Chief, do you have 2 more of those?
Oh. I got 2 more and...
Thank you very much.
So we are moving, I assume, to all-wheel drive?
Yes, the Dodge Chargers are too low to the ground. And what was happening is they go off-road,
Right.
they're ripping everything off. So we just said, no more Dodge Chargers, we're gonna go to the Ford all-wheel drive Explorers.
More clearance.
So, Chief, it's broken down, car 2, 4, 5, 7. Where's car 1, 3, 6?
That is because of the IMC system.
Numbering system.
We, we can't, so every time you're gonna see 12, 13, 14. We always renumbered cars, and that was just a horror show in the IMC system. So when we would do our numbers, which I have, you know, the chart that you guys like,
Yeah.
I'd have to go to car 4, and then car 4 retired, and add.
Nothing gets
but
deleted off of the records.
it's
always
there.
maintained. That way we have a history.
Okay.
But we figured out it needs its own number, and it follows it through its life, and we don't change anything in the system. So it's much easier.
Makes sense.
Yep. You're right.
What's the difference in price between the all-wheel drive and the?
They're comparable
Well,
because the Charger.
the Charger does have an all-wheel drive package too, and we're talking $1,000, $2,000 here or there, but just the Charger, even if it was lower, as soon as they go off-road or hit a curb, they're wiping the mufflers and catalytic converters, so it just seemed better to go to the Explorer. And more room for the officer, and we can put more room in the equipment in the back as
And the
well.
jump is bigger.
So what is a non-SUV then? Or
A non-
non-SUV cruiser?
Well, the Ford does have the, what do they call it? The Taurus, which is a front-wheel drive, which too small, and it is all-wheel drive, but nobody likes them. You don't see too many of them around.
Well, yeah, 'cause a Ford Taurus is like 50 grand.
No,
Just a regular car.
no.
What am I thinking?
We don't
I don't know, maybe,
Not for police.
a Taurus? No, a Taurus is very inexpensive.
A Taurus? I don't know. Do they still make them?
Yeah. But when we have people from Casey Houle's size
I don't.
to Luke Hamburger or Hank, that's,
Going from like
6'7" to...
For him to count people.
Mr. Hamburger fat, are you?
Oh, no, height.
Just checking,
Height.
but
Isn't one of your cars
Small
mainly
in height.
for going to court and stuff?
But that's the Dodge Chargers right now.
Okay,
So-
but if you're replacing those, then basically you're going to an all SUV fleet, which it seems to me at least for going to court is overkill.
Well, no, because as we get rid of cars, we always do is we take the oldest car and make it an admin car. So the police chief drives around in an older car.
No, I know that.
And so when the life cycle for a duty cruiser is it's getting too old to be out running to calls all day, that becomes the admin car.
It's the oldest vehicle that becomes the admin. So
Right.
you're not buying a new one to be an admin.
No, I
All
understand.
right, so let me just take a quick look. So when I get rid of car 5, obviously, one of the Fords, which it might be 7, that has 86,000 miles, that'll be downgraded. We'll take off the lights, take off the decals, and make that the admin car.
Okay.
So, and then when car 4 goes, same thing. I'll just go to car 2. So I'm getting a new one, and obviously, as time goes, I'll have all fours.
And is car 5 being given to the town hall then?
Whoever wants it.
We haven't sorted that out yet.
Yeah, the assessors are looking for a car.
I mean, yeah, the
They would
thing
be
is,
happy to have, they would have to be happy to have
Crawl into the window.
$131,000.
I offer it to Dawn, and
Yeah.
Dawn
Okay.
Then
does
we
his
sort it
magic.
out from there.
All right.
yeah, I
I don't
mean,
want an
it's
angry
just,
assessor coming after me either, so.
I'm good, but Tom has a question.
So what are the prices on the 3 cars, Dodge Charger, Ford Taurus, Ford?
I have no idea of the Dodge, the Ford Taurus, because we just, it's a car we won't get. It's too small, and it's not, no, they still have them.
Yeah, they
It's just,
still-
it's,
I just looked at it.
price-wise,
She's still thinking.
I don't know what the price-wise. Dodge, I think there might be $1,000, $2,000 difference.
Might be.
I think they're comparable.
They're pretty close.
It's the base price.
All these are the same
Yeah.
price, all the cars.
Roughly, within a couple thousand.
It's a base price.
Within a couple thousand, yep.
And it looks like.
So, would you mind, could I just get the prices? The exact prices?
Sure. Okay. I'll send it, I don't have it with it.
That's okay.
Well, let me see what I have for,
well,
well, the only price I have is the
You don't
quote
need
for
to tonight.
the Explorer.
Yeah, that's all we
Tomorrow's
have.
fine.
I mean, I will say, I can understand that. I do remember when the town switched from Dodge to all-wheel drive, and there was a slight increase. It was nothing noticeable, and at the time, I mean, it made sense, namely for the four-wheel drive aspect, not necessarily going off-roading, but we had some snowstorms that switched into snow tires, and then, I mean,
Put the
it
chains on
changed,
the
that's
cars,
right,
yeah.
and then
And there's a lot of driveways here that
Well, it's just the fact
very
that
difficult to traverse.
Right.
every police cruiser I see on the road, from the state police to college campus,
Is all.
is all-wheel drive.
They're all
It
gone.
seems they've all gone that route.
I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Jonathan, you had a question?
Never mind.
All right. Any other questions on Police 210? Okay. So, subject to the typical COLA step thing, we're moving miscellaneous, keeping the number the same, but moving it to, up to office supplies. Everything else is remaining as is listed here. So I'll entertain a motion to approve Police Department 210, 1.242963. So moved. Connie,
Second.
Joe, all those in favor say aye. I don't remember. Yeah, I was just.
That's another.
Oh, you want to talk about
You want to do that?
Well, you know what, in the interest, since you are here, and I'm not looking to circumvent capital planning, but yes, I wouldn't mind a little bit of an update, if you guys are in, if you're prepared, that would be nice.
Well, the first one is the speed signs for Main Street.
Mm-hmm.
We were looking at
What are we looking at now?
speed signs on Main Street. Capital expenditure request of $25,000.
Yeah.
4 signs in total that are compliant with all the rules and regulations of Main Street to put them on somewhere on Main Street. It's been
Along
undetermined.
117.
Somewhere along 117 to do a little traffic calming.
And is this specifically around the high school, or not necessarily?
We can put them wherever it's agreed to.
The chief and Harold still need to agree on where they should be placed.
These are permanent as opposed to mobile?
They would be permanent, yes.
They're similar to the ones at Lancaster.
They are
Yes.
exactly like Lancaster.
Yes.
They've found them very helpful.
Yes, I
It
know.
has slowed down their traffic, and it keeps track of all the cars that go by. So, one, it's great for enforcement, because if everybody's going over the speed limit at 3 o'clock, guess when we're gonna send out the cruisers? At 3 o'clock. And it saves us a lot of, why go out there for 4 hours and run radar and nobody's speeding? So it gives them a good detail of what's going on, how many cars, all the ups and downs of the speed. And the chief said, yeah, it's working great. He's seen it, the selectmen love it.
So it's data you can actually analyze to look at speed limits and stuff?
He
Yes.
told me they put dummy cameras on top too, and that helps.
Oh, they really? Haven't seen that.
So you're not gonna be accused of violating someone's civil rights by looking at
No,
this?
we're not.
Well, not by with
No.
cameras, no. If they're taking pictures of speeders, we're not going that route. It's a solar powered. It's,
No, I love the idea, I'm just concerned about
No, we're not writing tickets off of pictures.
no, this is all for calming and some data collection.
I know I talked to the chief about it in Lancaster, and he said it brought their average speed on Route 117 down from 41 to 31.
Wow.
Which would be great, right?
I like going by seeing what I'm doing.
Yeah, I
Seeing
can
how much
imagine
over I am.
No, so right out here
Speed
on,
under, right?
right here on Main Street, right out front would be perfect.
What
and
time are you
one at the high
doing
school.
that, so we can let
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
It's in Lancaster.
Put one right in my house.
yeah, we can, well, it probably will. You're right on the line.
Okay.
Interesting.
All right, so that's that. The second one, that was, the second one's the bigger one, and that's our repeater system,
Yeah.
which I briefly touched on earlier. Let me just find that one here. What was it?
I have it right
Preparing,
before this anyway.
oh, hold on. All right, so the two repeaters we have, they're pretty much at end of life. 1999, I think they were in. They were 50 watts roughly. And underpowered is pretty much what they've told me. They said it's a Ferrari running at 8,000 RPMs, 24/7, every day of the week. All right, so the new systems, or 100-watt system, they can drop the RPMs down to make it simple. They can reduce the power, reduce the RPMs, so that it's not working at full tilt 24/7. So that's what our equipment's doing now. And that equipment doesn't reach everywhere in town. So the officer that's out on a call, that has to use his portable, if you go up to 495, Green Road, Long Hill, Anymore, Still River, I'm giving you all the dead zones, they're all dead spots. So it's like your cell phone. If we can't hit the cell tower, if we can't hit our repeater, we don't have communications. So
That's a lot of areas.
there's a lot, well, the topographical layout of Bolton, it's all hills.
Horizon to horizon.
And the antenna up on West Berlin was the highest spot that they could get, and it just doesn't hit the backside of the hill. So the signal goes out, but the portable's not hitting it to come back. At the high school, where we have the big problem of the officer in the building, the signal doesn't get out of the building. So
Yeah.
we've been trying, hopefully the school will put it in their budget to get that amplifier set up in there. And, I think it was under 100,000 to set that up. So it's a good chunk of money for them just to do that. But the signal doesn't get into the building, doesn't come out of the building as well to hit all the repeater. So when they did the engineering study, they put the topographical layout of the town and where the repeater is, and they determined it needed 3 other sites. So we would use the cell towers to put our receiver, Brown Road, I think the other one's at 495 and Forbush Mill Road. So whichever one got the signal the best would send it to the repeater, and it would send it to Devon's. So that's what we're trying to do, is upgrade that system.
And what's the total cost on that?
It's
71,859.
And I'm sure, I think I sent you the electronic version of the engineering study. I might have only sent it, I may have not had the whole board's emails, so I might have sent it to Brad.
Yeah, you very well may have, sir. I will look, I'm sure you did, and I'll make sure everyone else
It's
got it.
circulated?
Yep. Alright. And the good news is you guys don't have any outstanding articles from previous years,
No.
so That's good.
I do, if you look, there is one that's been there, I think it has maybe $3,000. It was the IMC software that we have.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
E&D. That's been sitting there. Have been tempted to ask for it, but I really have nothing to.
$1539.86.
Something to that nature. That's
So-
pretty much tapped, meaning that that money no longer is going to be needed because.
So I'll take that as
Yeah.
an
I think you asked me that
We can have
last
that
fiscal
back?
year, absolutely.
Nice.
Yeah.
Let's
There you
make a
go.
note of that.
Yeah.
We will apply. We're not going to go on any seconds here. We'll apply that appropriately. The townspeople greatly appreciate that.
Oh, sure.
While we're on the topic, and Don, you're in the audience, how are we doing with town hall lights? You all set there?
Town hall lights?
Town hall parking lights.
Oh, yes, we're fine. We're making do with what we had. So, yes, so there should be a little under
1516, $1,516.
Yeah, we can turn that back.
All right, we are having a banner night here, folks. All right, thank you very much, sir. All right,
We need a vote.
on those? No, just
that's right.
approval from the heads. All right, I think,
Yeah, I think we've hit them all.
all right.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good seeing you. Thank you very much.
Go home and have my Valentine dinner.
What I'll do is-
No, thank you, no cookies, I'm gonna go eat.
Flowers.
Those are all at home.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you, pleasure as always.
All right. So, Joe, I saw the list of glossary
Right.
terms, fabulous.
I just thought it was 14 pages was the boilerplate that the other towns are using, and I thought, well, just for saving printing costs, we could get rid of things like defining cash and, a few of those other things.
Yeah, I mean,
But otherwise, we could just go with it. I mean,
yeah, I mean, it's
now Connie has a whole list of grammatical, the kind of things I normally,
well, I saw, you X'd out entire things.
well,
No, I
I did.
Oh, you
I
did.
X'd out.
He X'd out.
There were
He
things
had
like cash,
discrepancies.
there were.
Betterment.
I might be
Betterment.
inclined.
Betterment.
Yeah, I would leave that.
Okay, we'll keep it.
Well, just from the sense that we all kind of live and breathe this, and
Yeah.
the whole point is to have it as a resource for folks who aren't, doing this.
Okay, that's
So I don't necessarily say we have to bring back absolutely everything, but I think when in doubt, we might want to err on
Okay.
the side of
Because
caution.
Like, we don't have betterments.
the other
We don't
thing,
really need betterments.
the other thing that I deleted was, that there were references to selectmen or city council or mayor,
Yeah.
things like that, that
Yeah,
I
that's
don't think
You know what you did do?
repeat the.
You put cities in many places and you...
No, I took them out, or I meant
No,
to take.
you meant to, but you didn't.
I meant
You
to
meant to,
take them
because
out.
half of them are stricken and the other half are still in there.
Oh, well, I have to go, I have to
There's
do a
little bit of an
global search.
inconsistency, But I have it all right here.
Oh, all right.
Are we supposed to vote on something about
Yes,
snow and
the
ice?
snow and
Oh,
ice.
that's right.
Because if we are, we ought to do that before.
And you know
we-
what?
Yes,
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 I've
yes.
been trying, I've been
Yeah.
the chairman, yes.
Joe, you have a Mac, right?
I'm actually here to
So I
discuss the
sent it to your
DPW.
Mac, you should be able to
Yes.
read all.
Come on down then, sir. I saw advisory business, and that's where I stopped. I didn't continue to read on. And I saw your hand up, I was getting there.
It's an honest mistake.
Yeah.
We all make them.
So you're coming here looking for money, is that the deal? You were here last
Well,
week
it's
when
not
I was
what-
away.
Yeah, well, that
And
was good
now-
timing on my part, obviously.
Yeah, and now you're looking for more.
Only if you want to keep on clearing the roads, absolutely. So, what was submitted to you was a $100,000 approval, and that's already been spent, and we're way past that. We are now at an estimated overage of $173,106.09, and we haven't gotten all the bills yet. And I reviewed this information with the Board of Selectmen, and I recommended that they change the 100,000 to 200,000, and they agreed unanimously. So that's what was voted when I was noisily out in the hall.
And I will add, it was kind of noisy.
Well, I tend to forget my voice carries.
Yeah. Wow. So, 180.
Right.
Forget
These
about
are
it.
long duration
That's
storms over the
probably-
weekend.
In a normal year, that's probably half spent before
Yeah.
before a flake falls.
No, exactly.
And, yeah, and as Nanosha just said, she's absolutely right. These storms have had really poor timing for us. They're long duration events, they hit on a weekend, and we have a lot of equipment breaking down because it's old
When
equipment.
they're working.
For instance, we're looking at least $13,000 in repairs. The frame on the 550 is probably bent.
On the
And,
brand new 550?
No, we saw that today, that's beautiful.
no, it's not the brand new one. And,
They haven't paid for it yet.
and one of the other trucks has a transmission issue, could have a transmission issue. And also, just last week, we put in another order for salt, $40,000 for salt, so.
Yeah.
So I strongly recommend that you approve the change to $200,000 for the overspending, and that won't be the end of it.
No, I mean, it's the middle of February. Holy cow. All right, do I have,
Last year, with the extremely mild winter that we had, we overspent $40,000.
Yeah.
Probably the best conditions we're ever gonna have.
exactly. So I don't have paperwork, so we're good to go? We can just take a vote here?
Yeah.
Have anything to sign? Okay.
It hurts, doesn't it?
Holy smokes. Yeah, I'll entertain a motion to approve overspend of snow and ice by a total of $200,000.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Have another cookie.
That might sweeten
I'm so
it a little.
jacked up, I already had 3 of
All
those.
right, thank you.
Wow.
Yeah, because that doesn't even include the Thursday or the Sunday storm,
Oh,
as
no.
far as
Yeah.
DPW workers or contractors.
Yeah, no, I stopped by Saturday morning at the DPW.
Yeah.
I saw the new vehicle,
Oh,
looks
isn't
very
it,
nice.
isn't it gorgeous?
But I also was looking at the other,
And we have a warm spell coming up, which is the good news, but the bad news is that's gonna create black ice.
yeah. No,
Because
it's,
we're gonna be sanding a lot of
no,
that.
exactly, yeah, I mean, and then March, it's like March is constant,
Mhm.
sanding
Mhm.
for black ice as it melts.
So, all right, thank you.
Thank you, good night.
Thank you, Don.
Good night.
Good night. Brad,
Yes.
just wanted, I scheduled to come back, but I wanted to let you know that the health insurance came in, I was able to reduce it by 22,000. Since we're on a roll.
Good news.
Yeah, so that,
Good night.
so that was
All right.
better than, I thought I was gonna have to come back for more.
Yeah, and we're gonna be seeing you again.
Yeah, I'll be
Yeah.
here, whenever, yeah. But it did, the Noshka did reduce it by the 22.
Yeah, so just to follow up on the conversation, when Donna was in last time and we were talking about the assumptions on the retirement, and you mentioned one of the assumptions was knocking down the interest rate, right?
Right, yes, and
So-
so that's the article you sent.
Yeah, right, so when you've got this pool of money, I mean, you knock down the assumption of the interest rate, it's gonna require more funding, hence the reason why it goes up. So the following day, I sent an article to Donna, and this was done by an investment consulting firm, and they were looking at, the state of pensions. We all know the issue with the current state of pensions. The vast majority of pensions are using year 2000 mortality tables. Just some simple math knows, right? I mean, the 2014 actuarial tables, which will ultimately be adopted by pension systems, has life expectancies going, past. In some cases, you're right,
Because the average life expectancy has gone down.
So
Yeah.
there's different.
But our actuary at that meeting, they're actually using tables that go to 105.
Yeah.
Why?
They are, that's what she said,
That people who live to
some of the tables,
105?
not everyone, but they do have a continuum that goes to
Well, that's
105.
So you gotta, so again, just doing the math and what we are facing from a retirement standpoint and what every other organization is facing, when they incorrectly assumed too high of an interest rate, and they're now bringing them down, and life expectancy is going up, then all it's gonna do is put that much more pressure on the requirement to fund. So the number to fund is simply going to go up. So,
That's some good news, Brad.
yes. Isn't that great?
You know, we should have ended on the reduction
I know,
in
you
health
should have.
insurance. I've been happy with that.
I didn't want to end it on saying yes to 200,000.
Okay.
I'm trying to.
Well, I said reduction of 22.
No, that's true. So, you know, so again, going back to the glossary, Joe, I would say, yeah, just, we're not gonna go to we're not gonna be a city, we're not gonna go to a mayor.
All right, so I'll just take those out, but
Yeah.
do you still think well, I'm not gonna be saving, I was hoping to save up to a page just because of the cost, but it's probably not worth it. I excised a couple of things like cash, I thought was a little bit ridiculous. to
There are
do.
a few things I think you can leave out.
Yeah, but betterments, we'll put that back.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, make it applicable to Bolton.
Right.
At the end of the last meeting, Ken brought up a really good point. We're trying to put this together to create more of a resource.
Right.
Especially for town meeting, but, Ken brought up a great point by saying, hey, we're gonna wanna check in with Dawn and Linda, because
Right.
if they're used to creating this, whatever it is, 50-page, document to hand out at town meeting, and suddenly
It's gonna be 65.
we all come in with, something that's, massive. So, I think we've got to figure out what makes sense to go into that document.
Maybe you could put a larger version online.
Yeah, so
Well, exactly.
a lot of it could be
A
online.
lot of it can go online.
Absolutely.
But the good news is Dawn also mentioned that, it wouldn't dramatically increase the expense.
Because I think a glossary of terms is not something, you don't want that online because people are
Reduce the
going to be at the town meeting
Yeah.
and they're
Yeah.
not going to be.
In Boxborough, we've always had a glossary in the back of
Oh,
our
you
form.
did? Oh,
But and I can bring it in and show you the one we use,
Oh, I
just
thought we were
for the
talking
town.
There's nothing wrong with
No,
having
no,
it
no.
online,
And
though.
Well, we can
that's,
have it online.
it's
I
only
think we
like
should.
6 pages or whatever, it's
Oh,
just,
that's good. That pertains to the
Yeah.
budget as a.
and it pertains to the budget and the town meetings, so that
Yeah.
people will know the
Right.
terminology.
That's-
I'll bring that in.
I agree. I see nothing wrong with having things online. But I do think we should have, the bottom line is we have to come to some type of agreement on what we want to have in that version. Because I think, the town made it very clear that they wanted it in paper. 2 years ago when they voted no for the online version. So I think to that point, we need to.
I think you're going a little beyond what that vote meant. That vote, if you recall, was on whether to not print the town report. That's very different from
The warrant.
the warrant, and I would not interpret that as a vote to create a document like that to give to everybody in paper.
Yeah, well, no, so, you're right, I wasn't saying we create this massive document on paper, but what I was saying is, we want to be cognizant of, they want something in paper to hold on to at that meeting that they're looking at. So, I agree, I don't want to have it massive, because I want people to look at it, and I don't want it to break the bank. So we've got to
Put
figure.
something on there, for X, Y, and Z, please see townofbolton.com, so to reduce printing costs for because I think people want the actual warrant questions. But
Right.
I don't need to bring a glossary of 6-page
Well,
terms
I don't think
with
Northborough
me.
prints that out for everyone. I think they have the
Right.
thing that they submit to the GFOA online.
That's-
And then they
that
do a
makes
smaller
sense.
version.
And
Yeah,
your
that's where I
idea-
got-
Yes.
Yeah,
Got
that's
it.
smart.
So, Donna, you said, what do they do in Boxborough? Do they put it in the warrant?
Yes, there's a glossary in the
Because I
back of
think
our
there should be
warrant.
a glossary of the
And
warrant.
like I said, it's maybe 3-4 pages at most.
That's good.
I can get you what they.
Please, I'd like that. That'd be
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Okay, what's next?
Could you go over who's on the agenda for next week? Because I thought Linda said there might have been a change.
Yeah, so next week is vacation, and so we're not meeting. 21st. So I did request to see if we could get capital planning moved up, because there was someone on the committee asked if we could move up capital planning. So I talked to Linda about the possibilities of that, and capital planning was not going to be ready, so they're
The
staying.
next one's the 28th.
We had them on the 28th of
And what
DPW.
we had, the most
Yeah.
recent calendar we have is still correct, right?
Yes.
So we have tree warden, DPW, planning board, and capital planning.
Capital, yeah.
Planning board.
We did
have
planning
that
For
board.
their, no, their articles.
Capital expenditure.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Their zoning
Yes.
articles.
Yeah.
The planning.
No, they're zoning articles.
I see. I better check with their budget.
Yeah, you're right, the next meeting is the 28th, and what Ken just said is all, yeah. So and you guys saw me tonight, as, I wasn't trying to usurp capital planning, but just trying to be respectful and not have to have these
Well, I
guys
think it was,
Oh, yeah, I thought it made sense.
very glad you did.
Yeah.
come back.
It was an excellent explanation, and it will help us a lot, I think.
Yeah.
Whatever capital planning is will help us a lot.
Yeah.
And that.
What else?
So that's what we have for a game plan. So, if nothing else, what I will, I think what we all need to do, and it probably, the clog is probably between Brian and I somewhere, it seems to me. But we'll figure out the meeting, the notes that Ken has been passing around, and we'll get them moving. But my thought is we stick to the same game plan, follow up with last names. They should ultimately land back at Ken. And then, once they get to Ken, he'll get them to Linda, and they'll then be here, we can all sign off on them. But I agree, we should probably try and, get through that, so when we come on the 28th, we can sign off on some, since they're starting to pile up.
Sounds like a plan.
All right, so I will entertain.
Let me ask one other question,
Yeah,
though.
yep.
Linda distributed electronically the first draft of the warrant. Now, that had some placeholders in it that were marked in yellow but had no text in them, some of which had your name on them. Are those, it seems to me that if those occur, they would come from the advisory committee. When, in the course of this, will those be discussed?
Yeah, so that's a great point, Ken, and I saw that as well. I was a little surprised, and it really,
Surprised.
well, no, because,
Could you forward that on to us? Because we weren't part of that distribution.
yeah, absolutely, I'll get, so where this came from was,
As soon as I get out.
so I talked to Dawn about the idea of an article for stabilization.
Oh, right.
As
You had mentioned.
we were talking about policy, right, to have an article to bring it back
Said
to
you wanted-
ultimately what we just, set for policy. And then the same thing with the pay down of debt. I simply asked Dawn for placeholders and said, oh yeah, no problem. So that's why I think my name is attached to it. I'll be honest with you, I'm not looking to write them, and I haven't had a chance to follow up with Dawn or Linda. So Ken, to your point, I wasn't looking for advisory to take that on, but I did want to get placeholders on there so we could all start thinking about it, and so that it was, in a version to move forward.
Okay, well, let me ask them a procedural question then. How do you pay down debt?
The only thing we could do is on the short term, the year bands, we would pay more of the principal. Like, let's say, for instance, we had a truck and we were gonna pay it over 5 years. we would then maybe do an extra payment and reduce it to 4 years or something like that. So
Yeah.
we could look at that. You can't, your long-term debt, you cannot,
Exactly.
it's not like a mortgage, you can prepay it.
That's
But,
what
you
I
know,
thought.
now we're over, you know, we were at like 1.2 million, and you're just gonna be adding more stuff on. So certainly we could do that.
No, exactly. So, and that was kind of where I was going. Yeah, based upon what we've been working on with policies, I simply wanted to get it in as a placeholder. I don't think we're gonna be able to. I mean, we've got 600 and change.
Yeah.
We've
Now,
got
did they
600 left
include
of
that One
cash.
for the waste treatment?
We haven't discussed it yet,
Yeah,
but I
was
think.
that in that list? Like I
It
said,
was
it's on the
yes,
list.
that was
It's
on the list.
Okay.
Yeah. Right now,
Yeah, I
there,
think
right
once we
now,
do
there's,
capital planning, it'll be-
the list of all the money articles is 1.164. And that includes the,
That's new
that
stuff.
includes 168 for the sewage treatment plant and 150 for the boilers. But I
Yeah.
think
So
the,
that's
I
new
think the
stuff on top of
decision,
last year.
but the decisions that we have to make are, which ones can be paid with cash, which ones should be borrowed, and how long they get borrowed, and then that sets the amount that you will
Well,
pay.
that's it. And that was the other feedback that, you know, we were talking about at the last meeting was, you know, a budget, you know, that shows the, you know, at least as of right now, you know, where we are with the tax levy, right? So following up that meeting, Nanachka and I got together, right, and we went through the articles.
I also did not know anything about fire at that point, so I used last year's numbers, so that will change.
Exactly.
And the school is.
No,
yeah.
well,
But
so,
you put in 4%, and I don't think that's an unreasonable
I
plug-in.
put 4.5.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
in
I
any
think
case,
that's
you did put in an increase, and that's
Yes.
not
Yeah.
an unreasonable
It's not,
number.
Hopefully
that's a
And so I think
Target number.
it certainly allows you
gets
to
us
get to a
closer.
bottom line. I mean, I was
Yeah.
pleased to be able to get to a bottom line, and,
And like I said, we can start talking about funds that are, you know, parking lights, IMC,
Yeah.
there's a little bit of cash there.
no, exactly. And then, and so I will admit, when I was trying to be clearly living in a dream world, because what I said to Nanachka was, yeah, let's just assume last year's school number.
Yeah.
And I think she laughed out
I
loud.
said, no, I'm not gonna do that.
But, you know, I agree with Ken. I mean, the 4%, and there's some meat behind it, because my understanding is, Nanachka, you and Don were talking, and Don, you know, was talking to you about that number, and he got that number from Lorraine. So it's definitely in the ballpark.
But it could be 5, and then, I mean,
No,
that's.
sure.
Yeah.
But it's better-
5% can make a big
Yeah,
difference.
and then, again, when you guys look through the latest budget sheets that,
Well, we also have to talk about, you know, there's money in the ambulance fund that we, you know, to cover their,
yeah, as I understand, they
their
were,
cell phones.
yeah, they were planning to move their SUV with that, right?
I don't know, I don't, she didn't
Yes.
say
That's
one
what I
thing
had
about
heard, that's what I had heard, I don't
Isn't that
know.
nice?
it. That's the first I've heard of it.
yeah, so,
I heard about it today, I don't know, and in fact, I don't even know if they're asking for it, but if they do, that's probably
No, you're
the way
right.
they would pay for it.
right, so,
Which is good, I mean, that's.
so the other thing is, again, to get some semblance of what the tax levy was shaping up, because everything off the following tabs flows up onto that first tab, you know, without, you know, overriding what the ultimate of the committee and what the selectmen decide. I just made a couple of assumptions with Nanachka, and we took a couple of the big articles.
Just to get it quick and dirty to see how close you
Yeah,
are.
so we
to hitting
assumed
the levy
that
line.
the cell tower was a borrow, and we assumed the other,
Town common.
the town common was a borrow. And, but to Ken's point, I mean, we're looking at 1.1 and change, assuming everything's is said yes to.
Which I think you have to assume, because you just.
We
you
absolutely
start
have
with.
But you don't have to, for example, pay for the sewage treatment plant or the boilers with cash, because the boilers are gonna be 10 or 20-year boilers.
No, exactly, and
So-
there's
So you can borrow for those.
there's some added clarity on those. I don't, so, and then, we've got
And the
600
truck
of
also,
cash.
I would say.
Yeah, so the bottom line is, I do have a placeholder for the pay down of debt. I don't see it happening.
No, there.
Okay. That's all I wanted to know, and that's
Yeah,
fine. Okay.
all right. What?
Yeah, it's just height.
I know, it's a disaster every year. Right?
Every year.
Well,
All those trees that I
it does
saved
not look
last
like-
year, the money's growing off of it.
To me, it does not look like a disaster, let me put it that way. Because in my going through the budget after Nanachka provided all that and looking at even at all of those probable things or potential articles, I don't see it as a disaster depending on where the school comes in.
Well, so yeah, maybe disaster's a strong word, but I would honestly,
I think it is, but
Ken, I would just like, I would like just some recognition from others to say that, wow, there's still a lot of needs, right? And the list isn't getting any shorter. I would have thought that, I mean, I feel as though this committee, the town, has been very responsive to the various requests, but they're not slowing down.
No.
Well, and I also think it's good to let the town people know, like, what's coming up the following year. Like, when you're talking about all these debt articles and spending, you should also know what's coming the following year.
Right, and the
We
capital
have
plan,
X,
yes.
Y, and Z in our
Yeah.
capital plan for next year.
and you see the advantage of what we do here at this table is to put everything out on the table in the detail. And what it does, I think, is show why people are asking for what they're asking. Nobody is asking for unreasonable things. It's what people believe is needed to run the town. And if the voters decide they don't want to fund it, then they've got to give something up, I think is the point. And it seems to me that between the cooperation of the people who come in and us here, that everybody is doing a great job, and that it's a well-managed budget, in my opinion. And I think that's what's shown. So every time that Tom or any of the other new people say, why is this way, or why can't this be done? There's always an answer. Now, you may not like the answer, but it's a reasonable answer, and it's a justifiable answer. And so, I don't have any complaints about it.
No, I guess from my perspective, when I say the word disaster, I would love to be in a situation where we can
Pay for snow and ice.
where we can pay for things.
But it'd be nice not to tax up to the levy. It's nice to not
where
hit
we
everybody
could pay for
every year.
cash, where we could take care of what we need, not have to borrow, and even add to stabilization. Right?
Yes.
I don't even think we're going to be able to add to stabilization.
But if you look at the towns, in addition to looking at the way they portray the information and the way they define things, if you look at the other towns, I don't believe they're in a very different situation.
No, I agree.
I think that everybody wants to or does spend more money than they wish they needed to.
Yes.
Yeah.
But they're doing it because they need to do it to provide the services. A good example is what Tom asked about of the police service we provide or the fire service, or whatever it is, on 495. We don't have any choice. I mean, we live in Bolton, and 495, for better or for worse, goes through the town. And so we do.
Yeah.
And there is no recourse with that. And even if there were a current way that those things get paid for, which there isn't, it's not likely in the current administration that they're going to be providing more money for that sort of thing. If anything, they're going to be providing less.
It's just,
so it's just a fact of life.
No, we are.
As long as everybody understands it, then.
Yeah, exactly. I think the other towns, I mean, it comes back to what I have harped on. There is a tsunami that we can't control, which is retirement, and pensions. Those things we've already started to see them impact certain municipalities around the country. And that on top of, to your point of the limited money from the feds, the increased tightening of the state in concert with what seems to be additional mandates that are unfunded. Yeah, it's
The school hasn't done anything, so if that ever is mandated, we are in trouble.
No, I mean, again, I agree, the town of Bolton I think, is in a good spot, and relative to a lot of other towns, I think we are doing better. But you're right, I mean, all the towns are facing this, yeah.
But things are devolving onto the local level.
Yeah.
More and more, people have to live, they want to live in relative comfort, and I think it's, you know, as tax rates go down at state and federal level, they're gonna have to, unfortunately, it's impossible, I think, to keep them down in a local level. That's, I know that that's an idea that sounds terrible, but if you, there's a minimum level of service that people need to live in a civilized society.
And on your tsunami analogy, we're doing what we're supposed to do in that. And
Well, you're right.
as long as we do, and as long as everybody understands why we're doing it, that at least makes the tsunami way out in the ocean and the smaller ripples.
No,
They're not-
I'm very happy with what and how we're approaching OPEB. I just wish we had more control over the retirement side of the
That
house.
would be nice.
That's all.
Yeah.
Because that one is,
That's scary.
yeah, yeah.
On a totally different note, have any of you lost your key to the door?
Never had one.
We don't have keys.
Because after, I guess not, I don't know, the next day after the meeting, 2
2
weeks
weeks
ago, there was a key right out on the mat for the door. It was just there on the floor when I came in, so we thought maybe it was,
Interesting, no?
but you guys don't have keys.
Don't
No,
I do,
you don't.
yeah.
Yeah, so,
You
You still have it.
yeah, I don't know.
We don't have.
Very unsettling.
All right,
Yeah.
I will entertain a motion
So,
to, yeah. All right, have a nice evening.